just like push that a little bit closer.
A little bit closer.
Just a little closer.
He's like, you're gonna hit my nose, man.
What was going on over here?
I love, though, that McCoy changed his hair color to look a bit more like Razzle because it's extremely close now. So when he starts to grow a beard, they will be brothers nearly.
Nice.
Yeah.
Brothers in arms, brothers in hair, I guess. But I think that is it. Is they've been comfortable. They came out and they stayed here this weekend to watch the other teams play, but they were able to sort of go back home and do their own thing, which I think other teams are not being able to do, and that's going to be a challenge for them if you've had 7 days off.
Well, I talked a little bit with them yesterday as well, and they're going to change the drop zone. I'm not going to say where.
Oh,
but you guys
Why
go
not?
through
Just
that.
say it.
No, I don't want to say
Why
it.
not?
I'm not going to say it.
Are you?
Anyway,
the players can't hear
I'm
you.
not
You're
done with my
spoiling it.
point yet.
Are you teasing
I think you're making it
the
up.
people at home?
I think
Oh,
you're
yeah,
making it
I
up.
that.
He's making it up.
Anyway,
I'm
go
just
on.
kidding.
Keep going.
Anyway, they played really well on Erangel,
Yeah.
and that was the strongest map during the group stage. Now, changing up the drop spot on that one might be a bad idea.
All right, let's move on. Of course, second place from Group 2. We had 4 angry men. 57 points to their name, 2 fourth places, and 1 second place, with 11 kills, no less. But even in the games that they weren't placing that greatly in, they were still getting a lot of kill points on the board. Very aggressive.
So this is the kind of smash mouth style of play I like to see for, and this is what we also saw kind of succeed for TSM yesterday. Not a lot of placement points, but if they manage to just frag out all the time, average those 4, 5, 6 plus frags, and then also sometimes get those placement points out of the 6 games.
Let's not forget as well, they currently are the people's champion when it comes to the pick'ems.
Yeah, I mean, they are absolutely dominating the pick'ems. They have a lot of fans. We say that can be sort of, you know, good or bad depending on how you perform, but they've been performing very, very well. I was watching ZGG01 warm up earlier today, and he was hitting 1v3s, like knocking down triples and scrims, and it feels like they're... My always worry is, are they on their game on game 1, right? Because they take a little while to warm up. They are warmed up, and they are ready to bring it.
A lot of people look up to Godvito on that team, but at the same time, Don't Sleep on Forever and Xiaolu.
Yep.
Those two did some amazing stuff during the group stage, and I'll be keeping an eye on those two at least.
For me, you said GGO. He is one of the guys that has the most insane Mini 14 spray, because he's spraying with it and he's controlling it. It's insane to see when this guy does with the Mini.
Well, I think that's right, is they have been looking up to God V, but it's been way less lately because the other players on the team have stepped up and I think are shouldering the burden of how they handle that play.
Let's move on as we have FaZe Clan, one of the big names coming from the PEL, who a lot of people from our region at least are looking to try and vie for that championship place, and for all intents and purposes are a very, very accomplished roster.
I mean, okay, 7 days off. Has that affected FaZe in the past? Not really. These guys are consummate professionals. Some of the best LAN experience in the entire world. And I'm excited because I want them to do well today to really set us up for the first FaZe versus TSM conflict that we know is coming tomorrow. FaZe, I have no doubts that they are going to come out and absolutely start to smash people.
I'm just going to put it out there. Usually we say that they're bad on Miramar. And whenever we say that they're bad on Miramar, that's when they show up big on Miramar and make that their best map.
Well, because Avenger teased them all FaZe for it. So that might have been a little bit of a reason.
Although, again, a chance for Rumbus to maybe contest Melts of Power. We'll see if it happens.
Yeah.
If it happens, it could be very scary.
And of course, this is Uber. And for a lot of people out there, for pundits out there, he is potentially the best player in the world, especially when it comes to accomplishments in the past couple of tournaments.
By far the best player in the world if you talk accomplishments. There's no doubt.
I mean, I think there's no argument that pound for pound, you know, we talk about that with fighters sort of idea. Pound for pound, he is the best. I would take him in a 1v1 versus anybody else that you would put on the field right now. And that brings just a lot of confidence because Mixie, phenomenal player. Fuzz, phenomenal player. 8C, amazing player. And they don't have to worry because they've got the best guy in the world on their team. So when you've got that kind of synergy where everyone doesn't have to worry about watching their back, anyone on the team can take a 1v3. That gives you a confidence that is hard to tear down.
Still a team game, though, so you got to play as a team to make it work.
100%. And let's move on to another team here. AHQ, a very, very veteran-style organization I've seen in many, many esports, and they're here once again in Group 2. They got themselves 8th place, so they barely avoided those eliminations. So they're going to have to prove themselves here in a group of big boys when it comes to the field.
They're one of the groups or one of the player and teams that have been looking yesterday and trying to prepare for today because it's going to be hard for them to be a 0-point team going into this because they are potentially going to be bullied on some of the maps depending on how the drops are going to be happening. But 0 points going into today with some of the teams that are not going to be afraid to push because some of our teams that are playing today have a lot of points.
They were actually the team that got out from the group stage with lowest amount of points, which was 34. Now, they also had a win, though, which is more than half of the teams that have been playing here in the semis so far have gotten. So, I mean, they just got to do it a little bit better than they did in group stage to make it through here.
The important part about that win, that was actually half of their points. That was 17 of their points from that win. The other games, not
questionable.
And I mean, that's my issue with them is that CC and SR have been together for over a year now. And it feels like they're sort of have been trying to find the other two to click in the right way. And they're good on land, or good off land, but when you bring them to lands, they get inconsistent, because I think that stress of finding communication in such a high-stress environment weighs on them. And if they can get past that, they can be one of the greatest teams, but I don't know if they will.
And you know what that means. It's time as we get into our first game here of Groups B and C. We're going to Erangel, and we're heading up to the commentary team here for all of the PUBG action.
Thank you, James and the desk. This group, B up against C, you've got some of the heavyweights. You have FaZe, you have 4AM, you have the world's greatest facing off here. Who's walking out of this one alive? I don't know.
We can't say group of death, because necessarily we're not working off that premise. We're into a group stage, moving into the semi-finals. You're not going to go out on the elimination. But when you look towards Group B, for example, for them, their life is in everyone's hands when it comes to tomorrow. If you did want to say a group of death, this would be it. We have all of our big, heavy-hitting teams from around the world. Hell, we have all of the Chinese teams. We have all of the Korean teams, and now we even have the 2 LATAM teams who are being thrown into the mix just to make things even more wilder.
Yeah, for me, Group C isn't the group of death. They're the Reapers. They're coming to take away any of those opportunities from B that they've been trying to grind out from that previous day. If you hadn't performed, you're going to get punished today. That's the simple matter of fact for me. I think this is going to be the day we're going to really see the difference. A couple more seconds, guys, and we get a glimpse at some of the teams that have been quiet. They've been at home. They haven't shown what they've got yet in these semi-finals, but it's Day 2, match 1 of the semi-finals. Game on, Rich.
More importantly, you might be getting a glimpse of what we are yet to see, and you're possibly going to witness when we move to Oakland. There are teams in here that are absolutely, for sure, going to be in that arena fighting for that share of not only $2, but $3 million. This is the big one, though. When we look towards this now, Lauren, we have a very damn good potential that we get contested hot drops.
Now, instantly, FaZe, AFF, for example, these are the teams you have to watch out on. Milta, Power. It's been contested, it's been questioned, it's been brought up as a potential, as maybe a clash. Now, whether or not that's the case, yet to be seen. Hell, the Rumblers dabbled with it as well. We know teams like that position, but this playing path does not allow for much play there. So where's the adaptation? Where do they move to?
I can see it on the map. You guys can keep watching where people will be dropping, and we'll keep an eye on certain close combat scenarios. But for now, you will get the reposition coming out of both AFF and FaZe. Given the fact that the plane was more towards the western side, you can't go going for the long drop. Is it doable, grabbing vehicles? Hell yeah, it's doable, but you're going to be there later on. It takes time. Enters Genesis. Here we go, rock and roll. Both teams in Pachinki. Potentially, we might see a fatality or 2 right off the bat.
We knew this was a potential. We knew there was a chance for these heavily contested areas. You're seeing those SMGs coming out, and they're strong these days. Nerf's got one in hand, and we do see the Force Boys having their own kind of sloppy loot on them, but it looks like a cross might have been spotted there. Who's got the fire? It's Profi catching one on the cross, but how is this being divided? It looks like Genesis mostly has the south, whereas Enter's Force has a little bit further of the north, but they're close. They're fighting each other. We normally see it almost this gentleman's agreement of, well, you take the top, we'll take the bottom, we'll leave it as is. Not today.
All of these individuals that are sat here now, yes, you saw Profi picking up the gear and picking up the helmet to the chest, something that give him a level of defense. You have to be so careful, because no matter what happens, when you're dropping down and picking up those weapons straight off the bat, you are completely exposed out in the open with no kind of vest or helmet to defend yourself. If someone hits you in the head, you're going down. Speaking of going down, Doya, the first victim here, he's not dead, but Nerf sits him down with the SKS.
It's incredibly hard to flush in any of these situations because they're mostly in buildings, but to get that first knock gives you a way forward. Profi is chasing it. He wants those points. He wants to stamp their authority on this area. Get out of Pachinki. It's ours. But still, Enter's Force cannot be underestimated. They still have a bit of a surround here. Indigo's spot isn't bad, but I think K-Mind might have a little bit of an idea where he may be. Let's see if they can find an angle or a way through or a way out.
I'm interested to see if Genesis make an advancement here. when it comes to the fact that they are actually, they've got one down, they have the man advantage. For Entus Force, though, Korean teams, they're very much... They'll talk about it, they'll see the scenario. You don't want to go just running in haphazardly and then losing more players for the sake of it and handing over points to more to the... remember, everyone here is against you. We're looking at a leaderboard that we only find 16 teams by we're all said and done. Feeding them points makes your situation in the leaderboard even more harder because you then take, basically, less players to the end circle.
And I want to talk about what happens in a 4v4 or 4v3. Generally, you've got to be careful if you're the team with 4 players alive, as strange as that sounds, because you know you're kind of hoping the other team will force their way into you and you can maybe exploit that. Now, I like what Genesis is doing, staying as a pack of 3, roaming through, clearing through, staying somewhat safe, trying to elevate their loot currently. They probably need a great deal more. And you can already see, even that Scar there, only 30 bullets, no backup. So again, even for Entus Force, not ideal, and they're trying to take their time. But Entus Force aren't pushing this. They're not trying to refrag here, but it does mean they're slowed down and they're locked in.
If we see anything happen in an advancement here, we can dive into it. I'll let you take over from that one, Lauren, when we do. I'll give you a brief update to where teams are actually perpendicular on the map. FaZe Clan, it's the backup drop. They're on Sosnovka. Used to see them coming off the back of the bridge and then moving over, but Na'Vi will just be on there. They have to be aware. Na'Vi are not a team we see engage early game. They take the long woods. They go for the loot. They're not too far from the center side of the circle, so they'll be happy for now and leave FaZe to it. AFF went all the way down to Novo. Long drop for them. Actually, excuse me, no, they didn't. They went for the 2-2 split. 2 Milta to Novo. They'll be quiet on the way in. No one really should give them any kind of buffering on the entrance side of it. VC, that's going to be above the farmland through the split across from Pleasant to the left-hand side. Ghost, Yaz Naya, Red Canids, Rodsock, completely uncontested. Enters Ace all the way up at the top of Severny. That's actually a huge wide split there. Shooting range, Severny, Alpaca's actually all the way towards Zaki as well. And then we come further afield. Georgia Paul will see Gen G, usual scenario for them. T1, however, they're on the northern side of it. They are moving. They're going to be what we usually call the cross stack, coming across the bridges, moving down towards the mountainside. 4 a.m. The beast of a team that we've seen smash faces time and time again. They're on the rotation. They're heading through Gatka. 4-man stack. AHQ will be in their way, though. Keep an eye on the kill feed. Yeah,
you're looking towards this sort of centralized area just south of the Gatka fields. That's probably your center point that if there is room you want to take. Now, you could argue the Rumblers have an incredibly strong spot as well. It's that God compound that they control, and they're not being static in that either. Their stealth spread relatively well around. They're going to be trying to take as much information as they can, ensure no one comes close. And let's not forget Na'Vi in the south have been very good in these circles in the past. They're very good at taking territory where they find it, slow builders. They often opt for that compound just east of Quarry. So a lot of these teams have their favored positions. And let's not forget, as exciting as that enters against, I guess the Pachinki fight in total, anyone on that area, the problem is now getting out of there. One, their loot's going to be so trash compared to what they'd like it to be. Vehicles, they're going to be moving in hyper late here. So again, for these guys, was it worth it? That's what we need to find out, because we know time and time again, whenever you fight in these towns, it can be a loss down the line. FaZe have made it across Sosnovka Island, somewhat safe, heading on the southern coast, could wrap up the side, play wherever they fancy. We don't see too many teams contesting just as of yet.
The lucky thing for FaZe is that they play Na'Vi time and time again when it comes to PEL. They know where they like to loot. They know they don't set up any encampments. Even when teams like Liquid, for example, would rush out of Pachinki and going across the bridge on the Sosnovka Island circle, they'd never touch them. So for FaZe, this will be an easy rotation. Hell, they might even stop off in Prim to pick up any extra meds, bullets, or bandages if they need them. They've got plenty of room to play. This will be an easy rotate for them. However, more towards the middle side, teams are getting set up central, and this is because there's a hell of a lot of water in play. When we look towards the west and the south, the circles will be slowly but surely coming in. When we get to circle 4, we get the land ratio, we move away from water. To get quarry, it's difficult and takes quite a few hard shifts, or for the circle at least to stay in that vicinity, and that's why more people are banking on it moving towards that swamp-type area.
Still plenty of time, though. This is the thing. You've got to argue that there is no big necessity in crashing compounds yet. There's so much room for hard shifts for these circles to move pretty much anywhere. We've seen plenty of areas that can be incredibly divisive in this, that can completely make a team, let's say Rumblers, who currently probably have a very strong position, have to move. Now, we are seeing 4 AM having a great deal of a look towards that as well. They are not ignoring that presence. Now, Ghost Gaming, similar position to FaZe coming into this. A little colder, coming through, pretty strongly in where they were playing before. This is the first we get to glimpse towards them in those semifinals. AFF, though, Lambu in danger, and he has actually been found there. That's a big loss early on for AFF. Not what I wanted to be seeing for them. Call-off-on rotations coming in late. That split in the 2-2 format may have hindered them, slowed them down, when on the others, who knows what the problem was, but it's cost them a player early.
Communication will come through from Entus Ace. Probably tell the rest of them, you know what, don't take this bridge. Re-rotate and go for the more westernly one out of northern side of George. Avoid these bullet strassels on the far side. Dome goes down. VC, so that's a response, but that's an unfortunate grenade from the opposing teammate.
This is sloppy, it's quick, they just want to get themselves in the circle, get done with this fight, but Summers having a little bit of a double back down. He's coming around for a look at this one, but he's going to be swinging past in the car. And then does definitely get a glimpse on that. You could hear the shots coming through. Shadow has been called to try and supplement support. Summers out on foot. He wants this fight. They're trying to back this up here. VC are down to 3, with Lambu now being flushed, gone down. You could instantly see the eyes check towards it. They know that now AFF are a little bit weaker than they were before.
If Lambu were the one that was knocked by the nade, by the self-team nade, then that point won't go to anybody because the blue will take him. I can't absolutely confirm that because I didn't see exactly who killed him, but I'm sure it was the self-nade. The little jump up, though, to get the peek and the information is responded on. Remember, this is all happening outside of the blue, and while this does, all the teams that can... It's quite a distance, and they'll all be looking onwards to the circle, but they'll understand what's going on.
Style, he wanted that so bad, gets so badly outdone by Tide, though. You saw Tide almost jump them when the peak first came in, but the instant turnaround, really nice, calm, and collected play from VC, holding the line here. Freak of Freaks are not looking so... I guess together they look a little bit out on their own here. It's down to Shadow and NN to try and pull this one back and maybe make something out of this, but with a new circle, it's centralized towards the mainland. You've got to look at the Rumblers, AHQ, these sort of teams. I guess Gen G as well being in a somewhat good position, and already FaZe just suffered a knock against 4 AM. The heavyweights could be clashing here, and a flush to follow.
Wow, okay. Willis, a.k.a. God V, straight onto Mexi. IG, well, not actually the IGL, but certainly the team captain of FaZe Clan goes down. That's from a distance as well. We will be fighting across the quarry.
This position, I don't like that for FaZe at all.
I'm glad we're actually on Navi's POV because the third party could be a real. The fact that 4AM pushes them from the front and basically bottlenecks them. If Navi understands what's going on here and has read that 4AM are pushing in them, they could apply the pressure from behind and completely slap FaZe.
Oh, and VC, it looks like they're being smothered here. AFF, though, I don't know how many meds they have. They've got plenty, but the pressure was just far too heightened at this point. Smoke's going up, giving DJ Boy just a chance to maybe buy a second or two to get a heal off, do something. Because NN and the boys are looking to use that utility, put their nades down, hinder any progress, but they're not getting it for free, and they're not getting into the circle anytime soon.
At which point, Lauren, do you have to say that this becomes a bit of an ignorant push to stay here to try and get the kills, because you know you've had, by doing this, you're staying out in the blue and causing yourself so many problems. Everyone else is getting ahead of the game, and you're dying outside of the blue.
We'll come back to that when we see the sort of, I guess, result of the fight. But K-Mine and Genesis have rocked up. They've made their way out of Pachinki. They survived and they moved and they've managed to roll up towards the Red Cannon. It's the first glimpse I'm getting to see of these guys. Losing out on Rusty Zera again this early? This isn't good for the region. They wanted to see these guys perform. They wanted to see their teams putting up a big performance. And to see Genesis just walk up like that, maybe catching them off guard.
It was either a long-range scout or someone who was just kind of caught back, because the problem is for the Red Canids, directly in front of them, infantry is in the woods. Those woods provide you a certain amount of leverage over your opponent. Looking downwards, you can hide between the trees, between the dips and divots. Off the back of them, actually seeing one of the players, Lin, has a VSS. Please, just after yesterday, release Lin, let him off the leash. If he goes off with that thing, that's going to be fantastic to watch. I mean, generally we don't see him any VSS in play, but...
It's the best gun in the game, I don't know why.
Well, I'm yet to see the meta change when we're looking towards VSSs, we're looking towards SMGs.
It's a free 4 times and a suppressor. I like it. You know, it tickles them. It's a nice little weapon. And Lin is certainly on duty there, trying to have a look across. Of course, infantry did have those issues with the player yesterday and himself, so glad to see him back and able to play again. And I think it's going to be always followed with a little bit of an asterisk of, you know what, let's see how far they can take this. And if they do well, brilliant. That's really good news. However, everyone seems to be kind of settled in here.
To be fair, I was in the lift with them this morning. All happy and all smiles, all laughing and giggling, having a joke amongst themselves. So I thought, you know what, that's the best way to take this. It was a little bit unfortunate what happened yesterday. If you didn't know, one of the players was taken down. They run with a 3-man stack. The points certainly were affected by it, but now they're here. They returned at the full 4 men. Yes, they got 2 games in yesterday to finish it off, but the points were hit. It's do or die for them. We'll see how this goes. Again, all the Chinese teams are in play here. And there are some... it has to be said, 4AM does come painted with a target on its back because of how good it's been doing. This is your Phase 3 champions when we look towards their leagues that they have. The structure, the ecosystem that China brings to the table is absolutely fantastic.
If you're going to speak of 4AM, I can't help but think of FaZe. If you're looking at the two giants in this lobby currently, FaZe are in a... I actually don't like their spot. They're going to be funneled towards Na'Vi. I don't see how they're going to make it around this otherwise. It's either that or 4AM. Pick your poison. Everyone on rotation, though. Look at the north. They're all coming down that western side, whether it be behind FaZe or early cut above Quarry. That's on the team's decision-making. Ghost on the move as well. Everyone trying to find their next position. Still a little bit of room, but keep in mind those Gatka fields are not that playable in comparison to some of the areas. You still have that southeastern field in play too. So there's a little bit less terrain than maybe some of these teams would like. It looks like VC are finally disengaging from that battle, that scrappy, horrible fight out in the blue. They're going to make it in prior to the other team. And FaZe under fire again. It's a doozy. It's a bit of an EU battle, which probably tastes pretty sour to them as FaZe making the run. And I hate this position. And they've got to play. They've got teams coming around the back of them too. FaZe are about to be pinched, and that's a big headshot coming in. Fuzzface does make it forward, but this is a very poor first showing.
Na'Vi knew they were here, and they've stuck by their guns, which might be the death of FaZe rather early. Losing Mexi like that puts them at the predicament that everyone rings the dinner bell and says, you know what, boys? They are weak, and they are in a terrible position. All these teams that will be flooding down from the western coastline, they'll have to come south and then embank from the Longwoods area. Now, don't forget, excuse me, I'll pause for a second. I can see it on the side, AFF. They have turned up to the party, and because they were so damn late, all the teams are ready, waiting, and able to take the free points and free frags.
Good recovery for the Red Canids, definitely needing it after losing the player earlier on towards Genesis. Shadow goes down, and AFF bow out early. A little bit of a surprise to me, but maybe a recovery could be in order. A poor start, maybe a reminder that Pachinki isn't just a free take these days. It is going to be fought, and it will echo throughout the game. Ghost make it in, but barely. They're up against 4AM. Not a name I'd like to face in this early section of this matchup.
I think Ghost will have to take blue damage, to be honest, because there's nowhere else to go going forward. Puts you at the footholds of 4AM inside the buildings. It's going to be a rough retake, if a retake at all. You can't simply do that. They'll tank the blue, they'll move forward, they go all the way around to the south. But again, you're still at this worrying prospect that when you go down south, you have Ace, you have BC, Na'Vi, FaZe, they're all down here.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams in the south trying to find maybe a less than ideal position to take. I'm seeing Entus Ace, I think, down there as well, and VC just about making it their way in. So look, southeast here. I see Joy. I see them trying to find maybe a spot in the circle. Moves towards the west. That's going to put a couple of teams on notice here. Genesis, Red Canids, you have Infantry, AHQ. All of these teams now going to have to fight for very limited ground. Profi gets in the battle. The Red Canids are out for blood, though. Avenging their fallen teammate could be a must. Profi gets found, and now it looks like a flush is quick to follow. As Genesis got off to the hot start, they look deadly, but now being slightly muted here.
Red Canids have to get this done, though. They have to get as many down as humanly possible to walk through this because they are being gate-kept. Genesis want to take these 3 points quite easily if they can hold them outside of the blue. It's on their back, and it will be moving in 23 seconds. They do have Raspu on the off angle, though, Lauren, that might be able to get something done. If he gets a second knock, then maybe the advancement comes from the two that are on the left.
Well, that's why Nerf just repositioned, trying to get an off angle towards him because Raspu was keeping Genesis locked. He couldn't do much. Now he's been spotted. He has to go. It looks like Ghost Gaming are having issues. Entus F have just been called as well. 4AM showing their worth already. Ghost Gaming, though, straight in towards FaZe. FaZe already being put on a big amount of pressure. Vegas gets collected by Fuzzface, but that's not going to be the flush. Strimzy straight up in front. And as much as, yes, Fuzzface did some damage, the answer is swift. And Ghost Gaming may be scrappy, but FaZe are looking pretty poor here. There's 2 remaining. They're not in good spots. They're now being surrounded. Yes, you might win against Ghost, but then who are you going to be coming up against next? You have the likes of 4AM waiting on the doorstep, and exactly that. 8C going to get Shrimzy. Vegas gets flushed. FaZe are trying to hold on. It's just down to Drassel now for Ghost Gaming.
You would have thought that he had to get in. Oh, I didn't realize where Fuzzface's position was, so he clearly has the footsteps. And the audible cue that is there. K-Mind and Nerf fall down. Red Canids, they're doing damage. We have to go and take a look at that fight. Genesis are on the back foot. They've only got 1 man standing.
Genesis are in all kinds of danger. The Red Canids can keep backing away, peeling away, moving closer and closer to the circle, falling away from these positions. One of their players is a little isolated, but as that blue hits, it's going to hurt. Genesis are in trouble. Those revives now become impossible, and they're down to 1 man. It all looks so good until they just fell a little short there. H-Win on the run. That's a very brave, no, not going to happen. He's going to try and get the revive off, the heal off, but it's not going to work out at this point. I think he's dead in the water here. If Red Canids don't find him, the Blue's going to get him, but he's going to try and take one with him. How much damage can this man do from the Blue?
Try and get as many. What? H-win! That is sick to get those points because you'd expect the heal not to be able to get off. So to pick up the points before going down, it's the best of a bad situation. Unfortunately, Genesis falling 14th, but he at least collects them before doing so.
And now the battle in the south. This is a war zone over here. You've got Na'Vi, Southeast. You have so many teams. Still have Drassel for Ghost Gaming. Still have FaZe Clan and lingering over the top of them. The gods staring down from the hillside. It's 4 a.m. I would not want to step forward. Look at them. Look at Na'Vi, desperate for an angle of anything. Enters Ace trying to find a way forward, and yes, they spot a doozy, but where's that next shot going to come from?
Remember, this is where Na'Vi was, so they give up this position to let teams arrive into it because now they can choke them. They can just throw grenades, a full bombardment, and there's two! Senya hits both of them, and now Mickey and Joy. Well, if Na'Vi doesn't get them, 4 a.m. will because they are lingering in the distance. There's two players upside of the hill. And ZGG's already got the angle on Na'Vi. The pressure will apply, and these three teams will be clashing heads any second.
Senya's overstepped. That, what? He just turned that on Mickey. That's ridiculous. He is being hyper-aggressive. He was out in the open. The Blue is going to move him forward. That is ridiculous play from Senya. This looks like Na'Vi almost pissed off, if I'm honest. They look like they want to fight. They need these points, but lingering in the background is so many other teams. Yeah, you can get past Enter Safe, but you still have FaZe looking for a little bit more 4 a.m. The circle has moved slightly further north now. So this will force all these teams to move forward. So they need to sweep out the southern side. A doozy collecting the points on Mickey. It's just Joy left alive, and I don't know if he's going to be able to fight his way out of this one. Already FaZe have disengaged. They're looking for those next steps. Drassel's doing the same, and Na'Vi are locking out Enters so handedly. These nades, this is a horrible situation for this man.
Third nade goes up, they're inside the buildings, they're knocking at the door. I don't think Joy can do two. Okay, I'll hold on for now. Nade should bank off the wall and maybe collect it before he goes down because they'll be on the advancement. The reason they push so hard on this is the fact that the topography actually allows you, you're essentially tucked inside a bowl. The nades will continue forward, they'll try and get it down. What more can he do? I'll hold for a second. Absolutely nothing. Na'Vi get him down. They take out all 4 members, but it's not without punishment. They lose a doozy by doing so.
A doozy, I feel, overstepped that. He went too far ahead, but FaZe need to be ready for what's coming their way. You're going to see Na'Vi moving up. You're seeing Drassel lingering in the background. Fuzzface finally finds out, but 80 turns it on a dime. The trade comes back in from Senya, who's having a hot game and a half. That's the flush. There's the nade. Goodbye, FaZe. Down in 12th.
This is the Na'Vi that we've been wanting to see, Lauren. They've been a bit quiet going through the group stage. Yesterday in the semis, they started to wake up, but you called it perfectly. This is their territory. This is their lay of the land. They drop around here, and they work perfectly. The problem that's in front of them now is, have they overstepped their boundaries? Have they bought off too much time by handing back and allowed 4 a.m. and Infantry, both the Chinese teams, to get up close and personal?
VC are flying in down here. I'm not sure what their plan is. Infantry are being forced away, and this is where 4 a.m. arrived. They were waiting patiently on the hills behind. They were always going to be the victors of this one. Dance all you want. It doesn't matter. Na'Vi eliminated in 10th, and 4 a.m. hold. Still, so many players stand for them. They're in perfect condition. Infantry tried to fall away, but VC turned out out of nowhere.
Beautiful flank from ZGG to get that angle with the SKS and get the job done. The grenades will continue forward. 4 a.m. though, this is VC, Infantry and 4 a.m. all potentially going at it. Summer, last man, just lingering in the distance, looking at DJ Boy and saying, I'm sorry fam, I cannot help you out whatsoever. All 3 players of Infantry are making advancement here. ZGG reads the information, answers back.
That's the second.
What? How is he doing this? That's 2 back-to-back.
He's pushing it. He's going for the third, and why not? The man is a god! Absolute beast play coming out from 4 a.m. Huge control in the southern side, and already Forever was looking at the next position to go to. The circle continues to look towards the north. The east is the next battleground as well. That is littered with teams and players, and it's far from resolved. 4 a.m. have a southern approach here. It may not be pretty, but they have something to play with.
You might be able to see Forever's position on the map. This is really smart from 4 a.m. The 3-1 split gives them a bit more of a foothold in the circle. Yes, you're not in the circle, but he can look forward. He can read it. He can tell his teammates exactly where to go. You see these scouts, you see, it kind of speaks volumes. Hey, up, someone just died to the blue. You got a bit too greedy there, my friend. Unfortunately, Lou does touch the outskirts and goes down. That'll slow them down. But Forever's off on his own. He's finding good position on this. We'll roll it back to Genji at the moment because they're going head-to-head with the Rumblers. And the Rumblers, they're losing people instantaneously one by one.
This is what I'm going to be worried for the Rumblers. If their aggression and their confidence gets dampened, can they recover from that? They've been playing a careless game. AHQ. Oh no, that's too many in a vehicle. That's too much damage. The car's on fire. They pull up, they stay alive. 3 still stand. 1 nade would do so much. T1 no. There is blood in the water and they are looking vicious for this. Milk goes down. 1 man alive for now. The nades start to roll in. And Lee, there's nothing to be done here. T1 on the cleanup.
Jeff Locker and Ada, 2 individuals we've seen so far doing work throughout their respective league, and this time stepping it up big, gets the easy free 4 points. Loki goes down in the kill feed. He's over by the one basically lone shack over here, but Forever is in the distance. He's checking what's going down. Said GG finally. Someone's put a stop to his works that he's been doing, the madness that's been unrolling so far. Esther needs to be extremely careful. Lingering around the vehicle, playing ring around the roses, gets him, but there is revolver in the back.
Jerry Poppins still trying to do some damage here, and Gen G get eliminated. A little bit of help coming in from 4 AM.
It's 10 kills for them, Lauren. They're absolutely on fire, this one.
Yeah, I felt that maybe FaZe would like to make a big impression, but apparently 4 AM want to do it all, and they are holding every bit of territory. You could argue Summer's going to maybe be a nuisance, because I think 4 AM believe it's clear that could be something that maybe causes an issue down the line. For now, they want to clean up in the east. We are seeing W-Click fighting over the players, and the nades are so good here.
Let's take a look at the teams that have 4 standing. 4 AM, W-Click, and T1 in the north. No one really to give them any kind of pressure whatsoever. Willis will be able to get central point here. Akkad with the 8x scope should be able to read the information. They're going to be downhill. Forever holds them back for now and just gives them a warning shot. They're making an aggressive push. They're going across the road. They say, bollocks to this, want to get involved. They can take that dip, and that's great.
That's just about all they're going to get, though. And I wouldn't want to be that close to any of these players, but they do have the 2 holding the back lines. Really nice read from T1. Highly risky. Now, 4 teams stand. Let's look at the overview of what this means. You do have 4 AM in the south. They still hold great territory. Summer could be a nuisance. W-Click southeast. They're trying to move up on the lower ground. It's kind of a rolling hillside out towards the east. And T1 control the north and the center. T1 might get too much attention here. Everyone might start looking their way. They're the easier target. Because look at W-Click. They can't crest that hillside. So they're almost somewhat safe from each other here in the south.
Akkad will be left in the Wizards Tower just to be a nuisance and maybe apply pressure. Ada also trying to get the off angle. Big shout out both to Forever for taking that shack early, and then Helen and Jeff Locker to make that wild run to the dip and take full control now of the central point of the circle. No one else can get to them. In the north, it's completely locked down by their 2 players. It does become difficult for those 2 players to meet up with them because they're on an open embankment. So they'll be open to both 4 AM and W-Click. But the problem is, where does W-Click go? Who do they strike first? They go round and maybe tag T1 from the eastern embankment, or does 4 AM have enough grenades in the tank that they just want to throw them over and get involved?
Okay, going past probably Ada and Akkad dying here, this is going to be a stalemate. And W-Click, the only time they're going to do it is trying to catch him off. But look at the way 4 AM are positioning. And the way this unfolds poorly for 4 AM is that Summer is the dagger in the back, the assassin from the blue, and W-Click try and capitalize on that. That's about it. And then T1 just watch on from the distance because they are holding themselves safe. Summer creeping in, desperately trying to stay alive, hoping someone wipes out. Look at them. He can see way less in the distance. He can see these players. He knows they're there. He's just desperately holding on for placement. But little does he know, he's waiting on 3 other teams who have all players standing. T1 have made it across. They've just put 2 of their players across the road. I'm amazed they've made it that far. This means that 4 AM are adjusting their sights, maybe considering where that next piece of play is going to come from.
They've gone for the highest point on the map here, which gives them a full read and overview, but they've no idea he's behind them. I'm getting flashbacks from Face It here. I remember what happened the last time we were in this kind of... No, never mind. I spoke way too soon. Forever says, nope. Get out of it. Get gone. VC eliminate 4th position.
Now, you can't look past the fact of the amount of territory that T1 currently hold. Let's see. Yes, this is good for them. They hold the complete northern portion. 4 AM still in a very good spot just because of the hillside. The way it rolls keeps them safe from W-Click. Now, W-Click needs to decide where they want to go. Do we try and crest the hill to fight 4 AM? Probably not, because that exposes us to T1. Then how can we fold towards T1 ourselves?
They are absolutely the bait for both of these teams, regardless of who they engage first. If they go to 4 AM, T1 steps up. If they goes towards T1, 4 AM says, you know what? It's time for us to bite. They are currently just I feel so sorry for them. They're the ones that have to make a movement. As soon as you get inside this circle, you are completely exposed. They have no map control whatsoever here.
I wonder how much utility they have to maybe play with. You can see that 4AM are using Xiaolu here to try and hold off the push on the hill. Basically, if he gets contact, he has a really nice off angle to deny W-click. I'm liking the spread from T1 as well. They've got the kind of 2, or maybe you could argue maybe a 3-man pack towards the northeast side a little bit more, and you have 1 man isolated, depending on maybe if there's going to be a bit of a split on its own.
Roll the car.
Is that what wait, and are they doing that?
If they put the car forward, they could roll it and use it for cover as
Maybe.
it's going down. And I wondered, I didn't know how many wheels it had left.
It doesn't sound like
I think it's gone backwards, to be fair, so that might not be the play. Initial contact might have been seen. If he'd have gone too far and overstepped the boundaries, Xiaolu might have said, okay.
This could be just a patient game. We might just be playing till the very end here. This could be W-click trying to just shuffle in even to the most minute of amounts. Because well, T1 aren't going to be looking over that hillside too much because they overpeak. And looking at the guns they have, I'm not seeing minis, I'm not seeing SKSs. It looks like they can't be taking those long-range fights here.
I suppose it's only really a CAD that can see them. I mean, one individual out of all these teams can do enough damage, but smokes are up, movement will be made. They're inside the circle, they don't have to go too far. They can just build themselves a little bit of a barrier as the circle now constricts all of these teams together. The car player would be, it'd be an IQ 9000 to be honest if you rolled it. And
4AM leading, hold on. 4AM is starting to lead, and they might go on this one. If too much contact gets made, 4AM need to push this. They're going to deny the hillside. Look at the line of Molotovs that now light up the top of that hill. Ragnar now has very limited vision. They're being pinned in. T1 now know what's coming their way. Acad certainly should soon, because they are not far from this. Harold makes the run. First to get contact. They see the first man. They can't take him down. Acad holds the line, but now we see 4AM starting to get behind them. They want the points. They want the kills. It's 12 already.
W-click are being battered from two sides, unfortunately. Jeff Locker, Acad and Ada, but 4AM have to move, and they're going with a 4-man stack straight down the middle. Helen is on the left-hand side. Be aware of that. He's watching that line. He is the thorn in the back. Should 4AM overstep the boundaries here? I think he's spotted.
There's the push. We're down to 2. Is 4AM against T1 already? A spray. It's good. ZGG is in danger. 4AM need to still themselves, prepare themselves for what's coming their way. T1 wants to push this though, and they might be right to do so. A huge victory for T1 if they get it right. Never write out 4AM. I certainly will not. They're trying to get a last-minute revive. This is so dangerous. This is so deadly. T1 are on the hunt. They see forever. They flush him. T1 up to 10 kills, but only 2 stand.
They're giving him the information, though, but the smokes will be left. Wheeler sees him. One-on-one versus engagement. Can he see him through the smoke? Oh, he's there. He's got him. It's done. 4AM. 4 very angry men. What a game. 15 kills. 25-point match to open a Perigel. That's sick.
I think when we asked the question at the start, are these guys still the world champions? Are these the heavyweights in the lobby? We got the answer on one side of the coin. 4AM still look phenomenal. They played a perfectly paced game. They have stamped their authority on this semi-finals. And well, is anyone else who dares challenge them now?
The Rumblers, the only Western team inside the top 5. 4AM, T1, W-click, and VC take your top 4. Wow. Okay. I think Group C is really starting to... I mean, we're only 1 game in, and we've still got 5 more to go. Good job from Rumblers, though, up in 5th position. After yesterday's 3 second placements back-to-back, that's decent points in the bag, but not many kills to boot.
I would say their positioning, just simply for me, it allowed them to have a very strong game there. I think they started in that sort of area. They had the God compound. They played it out well. No taking it away from them. But I think we've suddenly got a glimpse at the big boy teams, haven't we?
That's sick.
Team, should I say.
I mean, what a way to open it up, right? We always say Erengel's the one where we can probably... Miramar's a bit more of a slow, methodical game.
Aww.
Smile, you're on camera. He's got Doritos. Okay, he's a real gamer.
He's an absolute gamer. But not sponsored. But no, it was an incredibly good game thus far. I think we've got a glimpse of what to expect from these upcoming matchups now.
This is the one thing that this entire tournament does, is the fact that it's going to show us our first true world champion. Now we've got the structure in place. We've had the year's worth of play when we're all said and done, we will be able to call someone a king under the mountain and a real best in the world.
Well, we'll end it on that note and see what the desk has to say after the glimpse of 4 a.m.
Thank you very much. Watch out for your job, guys, because that kid had more camera presence than all of us put together. Nice one, lad. But we are here as Group C has shown up in full force already. 4 angry men already getting themselves a big win on the board. T1 in second place. You're going down from there. WClick getting themselves a third place. Very much so. A show of power to start out the day. Scary for Group B.
I mean, Rich said we're going to name the king under the mountain, and that's because 4AM dwarfed all of the competition. These guys were absolutely on fire. 15 kills. That's 25 points. They literally got more points in one game than the bottom 3 teams yesterday got all day. Tying the 8th place team. Like, come on. That's how you start.
I mean, if you look at 4AM, how they were playing out throughout the whole game, though. They were early on, they did that 2-1-1 split where they had 2 on the high ground, forever holding the low ground on the west side, make sure no one could push them. And then you have CGG on the flank there, going in and basically just perfect executions. We also saw that in the end as well. When WClick started pushing 4AM, 4AM basically herded WClick and made them fight T1 instead and initiated that fight so they could just take control over everything.
What I like to see from this is also, this is the teams that had 0 points basically going into today that are already starting like this. Kind of unexpected. I expected some of the teams that had gathered a lot of points yesterday to kind of have more explosive playstyle. So it's nice to see that these guys start off strong and basically now have more points than nearly half of the other group.
It was a great first game. Let's take a look at the highlights here for our first Erangel of B and C as we started things off with bangs. And for Africa Freaks Fatal, it was not a good start to the campaign here, Top.
Go ahead.
No, Ross, you do it. Your Toffee's...
This was a fight that lasted for a long time. They were basically fighting until Circle Free on Potato Hill. Even though that was outside the zone, we did see them move on later on with 2 each live from each team.
I mean, they had to fight early, and it was sort of just one after the other. They survived a fight and just run to the next one and lose another guy, and it was sort of like a slow bleeding process for them. Jump over to Genesis, another team that we needed to have a good start today because we hoped maybe some momentum from the end of yesterday would carry over. Not meant to be, as they end up going out in 14th place.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Froz. Going on now. Toffee's at the very end there. What do you think about all of this? Oh, I didn't clock it. I can't believe... Oh, what a fail.
Martin just dropped that.
Never mind. Okay, let's... Genesis here. They actually got themselves red cannons, and then AHQ was slowly trying to hold them out, but didn't realize everybody had already died anyway.
Yeah, they didn't see the he actually could have survived that, right?
He could have, yeah, but 4 Angry Men actually took this spot very early, managed to gatekeep all the teams in the south, and they were rotating or micromanaging the zone extremely well there. This push up from AHQ, I was surprised to survive this long. I expected the card to explode a little bit, but T1, they cleaned that up real nice.
It was less a snake and more of an adder. Nice. Catching them off the air as they were trying to come up. Very impressive, though, by Team 1.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, T1 just added 4 more kills to this. 4 Angry Man comes out on top. I do think the key to that win for them was they found Summer sort of hiding in the grass behind them. He could have cost them everything, but once Summer, they caused him to fall, then I think it was easy for them to spring forward and come out on top.
There's 2 things there. WClick decided to fight T1, Summer got found. If WClick decided to fight 4AM, T1 were the third part of that fight and they would have won. But the better play, in my opinion, would have been for WClick to push over and use the smokes to kind of turn it up. Because if they took the high ground and could find the 4AM guys, it would have been a lot better, in my opinion.
I mean, to me, it was about the way WClick felt like they were being herded, right? There was a lot of Molotovs in play there. And for those of you watching at home who normally watch, say, North America or PEL, we're using that green sort of smoke look instead of the fire because of the settings. So, but that was everywhere. They couldn't push over the hill. They kept trying to go left, and it was like, oh, Molotovs, I guess we'll go right. And they forced them into a bad fight.
Here we got the rotations of those 3 teams in the ender. And I mean, all 3 of the teams had all 4 up towards the end of the fight there. So, I mean, it was huge of all of the teams to actually be able to keep everyone alive till then.
And actually, in those final moments, you gentlemen were having quite the debate as to where WClick should go. Let's kind of break that down a bit again, because you felt that WClick should go up to the high ground. One of you thought that WClick should go down to the low ground. What were your thoughts?
I'll explain my point of view here. So if they force a fight on a high ground position where they can smoke off potentially T1, T1 would have third-partied 4AM as well. They would have swept around that side, and they would have collapsed. They would have potentially gotten more points from kills and potentially getting more points from placement because they would have guaranteed themselves a second place. But no matter what, when you're in a 4 versus 4 versus 4, whoever starts the fight never wins the game. Like almost never wins the game.
And basically, I was saying that W-Click would go down towards where T1 was, and basically how the fight ended up, that's what I was explaining before it happened.
I side with Martin.
There you go. Brilliant stuff. Well introduced.
T1 did something very smart. They sent Hella actually on a flank around the side. Had they forced 4AM to sort of look for the fight with T1, it would have jumped off right away because of where Hella was. So I do think that was it, is making sure you're not the first one to fire.
Also, one more thing. W-Click was waiting for the circle to push them instead of making a play before they were forced to make the play.
Yeah. Points coming in for this game, all importantly. 25 big points coming in for 4 Angry Men up at the top. 15 kill chicken dinner is massive for them to start the warpath here for day 2 of the semi-finals. So great points for them coming in. SK Telecom getting 16 points. It's a very, very top-heavy for our first lobby of the day.
But I mean, like, these are the 2 guys who they came in cold, man. This is their first game, and they go 1-2. 2 regions that struggled yesterday come out and throw the gauntlet down today and absolutely crush it.
Look, just to give you a little bit of perspective on this, getting 25 points in first game, VC Gaming got 27 in 6 games yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so
that's putting it in perspective,
They basically made nearly as many points as 5 teams made in 6 games yesterday. So it's nice to see from 4AM, the fan favorite, showing up in the first game. Unexpected for me. I didn't expect, as I said, I expect the team from yesterday that already was warmed up, they had some points, they had kind of more points to play with to show up bigger.
Well, it's just 1 game so far, I mean, it's still a lot of games here to go.
Yeah, they were in a rush. They microwaved this chicken dinner. This was quick by 4 Angry Men with those 25 points. And that's how things stand here for today in terms of the points accrued, of course. We already have 8 of those teams. Ooh, that looks yummy. We already have 8 of those teams getting themselves points from yesterday, of course, and later on during the day, we will tally up all those points against one another as they do sit.
We're currently counting them in the back.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Na'Vi on that game. They went out a little bit early, right? So we didn't get a chance to sort of talk about them during the highlights. They put 6 kills. They were fighting tooth and nail. Their push to sort of dig out that warehouse was absolutely inspired. Unfortunately, FaZe sat on it, just waited for them, but they even turned that around.
I would say, though, they forced the fight a little bit harder if they did. If they decided up gatekeeping instead, they could have more guys alive, and I don't think the third party would come through. They potentially could have gotten more kills or even placement points.
Well, gentlemen, let's check in with the People's Champions, 4AM, as we can have a small listen in for them at the BGC.
往哪跑了？往哪跑了？往下面跑了。他不在圈，他不在圈，他不在圈。等梅花招，等我梅花招，左右跑，左手碰两肩膀。我们打过去，我们打过去，他们突然再打。手雷，手雷，我来找左边麻烦了。云海大把头上闪了，云海。哎我操，我头上打，这边趴了一个，这边趴了一个，趴了个倒，趴了个倒了。侧那吗？哎，路子，我能拉，我跟你说，帮我拉了。行，下，我又下眼了。我连扔过去了。在烟里，在烟里，这个地方。我现在应该是1帮5，我来跑前跑，应该是2打2。太凶了，他没了，在烟里，2个人再往前进，听到了吗？这个人是最前面的。来个，我打了，没事，光瞄。
Well, I don't fully understand what was going on. Quick comms, very decisive, straight to the point.
Very efficient as well, but
so efficient.
What they were in a 2 versus 1 with a knock. I actually expected them to go for the rest. If you're 2 guys alive versus a knock and a live guy, you both push immediately, or you both like one guy make sure that the other guy doesn't push, and then the other live guy takes the other rest, so you potentially could make to a 3 versus 2 rather than a 2 versus 1.
I just liked how clean the comms were. You saw Forever sort of taking the lead on that one. And, you know, when there was information to give him, his teammates gave him info, but they stayed quiet and they sort of just followed his calls. And you could see how cleanly and just regimented that whole fight went.
I feel like our producer is testing our bilingual abilities. And let me tell you, as a Brit, I'm ignorant as hell and know no other languages. So just so they know, any team that they throw up, don't worry, because if it's not English, I'm not going to understand. I'm useless, guys.
But I mean, to me,
useless.
To me, that was cool, though. In a weird way, we kind of have understood what these teams are saying, right? Like the language of that final 4-on-4 transcends language barriers, because we know they're saying, watch your flank, push here, get that down. And it's really clean and fun to sort of watch from a player perspective.
It's association interpretation, right? You can tell to a certain degree how things are going with where they're looking, where they're shooting, how they're reacting to certain things going on in the game. Froz, you wanted to say something?
I mean, you can also hear how intense it is when they're actually speaking. But they keep it very short, very consistent, know exactly what you need to know. Nothing else needs to be said because you're blocking off the audio if you want to hear footsteps, stuff like that.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. It's time. We're going into our second game of Erangel here between groups B and C. It's time to head back over to Pansy and Sims, two of my favorite Brits. Let's go.
Thanks, James. We like that. We kind of like you, I guess. You're maybe top 10.
Fellow
20.
Ginger.
There you go.
I'm a fan.
We'll go for that.
Big fan.
Someone I am a big fan of, though, is 4AM. After an impression like that on game 1 in the semifinals for them is incredible. I don't think we can say we've seen a performance quite like that as of yet.
It kind of reminds me, and I get reminiscence of when we go back to PGI, when we saw the pushes, the aggression, the wild plays which pushed teams all the way to the top of the leaderboards that we kind of never experienced before. One individual I really quickly want to call out, Forever. To just be disconnected when they were fighting Na'Vi, when they were fighting VC all the way on the southern side of the map. He was looking onwards. He was disconnected from the pack. To go and take control of that one tiny shack disallowed anybody to make movement, especially T1 on the opposing side. Controlling that shack was absolutely subliminal in winning the game.
Yeah, I want to look at T1 as well. In the way that they did that little 2-2 push, they kept two players back towards, I guess you could say the tower, the Harry Potter tower, if you wanted, or the position that they previously had prior to that circle move, and they were able to get those two players across the road. I was very surprised they've managed that, but credit to them for doing so, bringing themselves to that collective four, finding that low ground fight, utilizing the vehicles that were left in that position to fight from. You saw those shots coming out, they were crisp.
It's not even that. You go one step further. How the hell did they get their two teammates to them afterwards? Like, you've got two teams that could essentially get line of sight and deny you coming down the open run. To be able to get all four players together into the final circle. Yes, you had four up from around the second one previous to it. But to be able to put them up front and center, deny line of sight, push the guy in the shack back, and then say to teammates, okay, it's clear, get stuck in, we'll put the utility up for you. Fantastic ending and a fantastic way to start day 2, game 1.
Certainly is, and we're back for more. It wouldn't be right to not have a little glimpse of something so good. 16 teams, 64 players stand. Who walks out the victor this time around? Would it be a back-to-back? I wouldn't put it past them, but still. Teams can wake up, they need to. We need to see FaZe deliver. We need to see all these teams who have these huge reputations beside them find their form. But let's look at those early drops we saw before. This playing path does not bode well for that maybe Milta fight, but what it could create is another Pachinki battle.
I'm very glad you touched on it. Not too dissimilar from the previous one. It starts around the southerly west area. This time we go towards Severny, but it's a western playing path. Previously, we had Milta, Lipovka Mansion, all that area disallowed teams to get to their normal loot locations. AFF was definitely penalized and punished by it. The 2-2 split, they were late on arrival. It caused them problems going all the way to the late game. I'm actually seeing FaZe Clan in a backup of a backup drop this time. Primorski's clear. The only... Bram Red!
It's beautiful. It's, that's a nice bit of work there. They're just going to get away. Microfry handling the pressure well, though.
Little battering ram. It's always scary when someone just drives in with a vehicle. I'm like, you know what? If he flips me, I mean, I do. Craig Charles, was it?
Yeah, it was. Uh-oh. I'm seeing what could be a military circle, Richard.
Please.
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
Really quickly, I just want to theorize something here, Lauren.
Yes.
Do we think it's going to be difficult once again for FaZe playing off the back foot of Na'Vi? Because it was Na'Vi that strangled them into a position where they had nowhere else to go. They're kind of now with this circle. To get past them, they'll have to run the longwoods, which Na'Vi might play. They could go across to Sosnovka early. Yeah, take the boats from the backside of Prim and then go across.
Yep.
Okay.
I wouldn't go anywhere near that.
All the way down south, hit the beachhead.
Absolutely.
All right, fair play. That would be the... But then again, you are taking a chance. It's a damn good, it's a strong chance that it's going to go to Sosnovka, but...
It is still a chance. It could still move
north. If you get that hard shift, double back-to-back, like, game on.
Yeah, it's one of those where you do look at this and you think the odds are very favorable for that. You're already seeing some teams maybe considering it now. AFF did have such a terrible start to that previous game. The horrible fight in the blue that they suffered was a bit of a shame because I feel like these guys, Freaks, are very, very fun to watch. They can put up some big performances, but that was not one of them. So maybe feeling that this could be their chance of redemption, can head early over towards Sosnovka Island, hit up Nova, hit wherever they want, really.
That's my only minor criticism with this, is that getting to Novo, everyone else is already getting geared and they're still in the water. There are other places, yes, it'll be trash loop, but there are other places you might be able to come. Hell, come in Island, take the vehicles and go onto Millie Base. Get stuck in there. It's full of gear and it's a high populated place to go and, you know, get some really decent under your belt. But they're going to be extremely late. How this will play off against them later on, I'm sure we'll find out. Actually, Senya has company in here. I'm seeing CC just lingering, and I don't think he's any idea. CC does. That's why he's holding the wall. Silence Thompson. Great weapon.
Couldn't think of anything worse, if I'm completely honest.
It is absolutely terrible.
It's vile.
Does he have any? Yes, he does. Okay.
He's got a shotgun.
He's got 2-2. He can at least survive a few bullets, but Senya's just...
Have we seen a Tommy gun fight before?
Get him. Get him.
Oh, the gun. The gun's horrible. Look at it. It's... Oh, no.
He's not even scared.
Confused. He's like, is this some sort of, like, wasp going around me? What's hit me for this tiny amount of damage? That nade just clipped off the roof. But this isn't without getting the attention of teams around them. This is not the time to be having these fights if you are Senya. No, it's not even... yes and no, I guess you could argue it is coming in. Senya's trying to back away from this, trying to disengage.
I'm really sorry to break you off. Microfrag's just hit him. He's tanked him up, so Senya's weak now. That was the mutant from... Okay, so if Senya doesn't have the meds to get this, they might rush this building, and he's going to be down to about 40-30%. He does. It's bandages. The first aid is off. Now he can fight. Level 1 helmet, level 2 chest is damaged. But we've got a bit of a three-way here, and now the rest of Na'Vi are lingering because the information will have been fed.
Where do the Rumblers go, though, on this one?
I think you've got to hit the bridge or hit ferry. Just grab the boats and get across, or just go for the bridge, because you know Navid's not there. So if you've been doing your homework, you know it's clear. But at this level of competition, you're always going to be scared that the potential of being bridge camped is always real.
I would say the one big problem in my mind is that Senya can just kind of write himself off from the say, guys, if I make it out, I make it out. Maybe players of 3. Oh, Genesis, please don't all be in one car. No. This gives me great deals of anxiety, just ghost riding around and pulling up. Just going to take their time by the bridge, potentially. Ghost Gaming already getting engaged as well. AHQ backing away from the compound. Senya gets a second shot at life, maybe because I'm suppressing fire, or maybe they just felt, why would we sit here when this is probably not going to end here? We need to look beyond that initial fight. We are seeing the Eastern Bridge having a fight. We're seeing the mini bit of a hold here from Style, further back by the tower. It is infantry trying to make the run. The UMP is not ideal. Maybe the 16 could do better. I don't know. The gun's a little bit tough to work with here. Vehicles do make it past, and Freaks were late to come here, so their loot will be subpar.
He kind of spoke in the way that he approached that fight as well. He could have been looking at players facing him directly and coming onwards off of the bridge. Rather than doing that, he waited till they turned him face and then took a few bullets on them. So you know what? At least now they can't just drive towards me. Should I miss everything, they'll be able to go away and do their own thing, which they do. Everyone banking on the Sosnovka, and why wouldn't you? It's the best play. Unless we get the double northern shift, then it's going to be looking rather good. 4 AM. They're all the way on the opposing side of the bridge, the one that you've just seen infantry move off. In the north, I'll tell you where some of the other teams are. Gen G and Red Canids, they'll be going past one another.
4 AM crossing the bridge?
Rosok. 4 AM is holding because they don't know what's across there. One of them, I think, went early to scout and we may have heard the shots. It'll have been quiet when you've got an M16 and an SMG fighting. You're like, well, I don't really know what's going on here. So if they have scopes, they'll be playing for information, just keeping an eye track of what's going on. The other bridge encampment that is real is Genesis. They're actually holding on to Na'Vi right now on your screens.
Yeah, and this is the battle over towards maybe Rozhok, I guess, Watertown. Really weird fight between Genji and the Red Canids, trying to maybe disengage, get themselves towards the circle. Lovely shot from Andy FPS, though. This guy is a very talented individual. There's no getting past it. You can't deny what he can achieve, but does he want to stick around himself? Lovely little readjust, spots the angle. If that shot came through, it would have been everything he'd wanted. It's not going to happen. The revive's going to come in. And I feel like these teams are being very scrappy, which I like, but it could cost them in the long run. You're looking at positioning here, which you're losing out on.
There's several points you want to look at this from Gen G. They're losing time. And more importantly, you're losing a hell of a lot of utility. You've just committed 3 men to the cause there to get one back on his feet. All your smokes, all your gear, every denial bit of utility you have Hey, I'll tell you what as well, I didn't realize this Ferry Pier coastline, VC, AHQ, Na'Vi, Genesis, and Enters Force, all within a stone's throw one another. This is a powder keg ready to go off.
Enters Force are probably going to see a doozy, maybe, because he just got in the vehicle to pull it up further. There it is. So they're going to spot that one out. Now, if they engage or vice versa, it may be a bit of a misread from them because they're going to see the players further ahead. Na'Vi, what are you doing? They're piling in. K-Mine gets fed the kill. Pokemon all the way falls out of the vehicle. This is a huge misread from Na'Vi. This is going to put them in a bad spot mentally because I'd be frustrated. They clearly didn't scout it well enough, or maybe just felt the pressure coming in from OGN Enters. I don't know if that was the case. I don't know if Enters Force even shot towards them. That could be a steal there, but a blunder from Na'Vi.
He does. Whips it away from Genesis. Easy for Kale. Mops up the down. Questionable play there from Na'Vi. An interesting run. Not pre-scouted whatsoever. And then to jump out, unfortunately, a little bit too early. Pokemolodog killing himself. It's risky and it's rough. And it's certainly not without remorse. Circle. She is closing. We'll be seeing where we're going in the next round. I'm seeing Ghost Gaming on the cliffs of Milter Power, all the way down, well, actually not even Milter Power, it's further afield. Near to the Shark Fin area, what some people, in fact, it's not even Shark Fin, that's on the opposing side. What are you talking about? It's just the cliffs below Lower Milter, we'll go with that.
There we go.
T1 at 4 AM Milter also.
Vegas is very far away. He's just on an island at the moment, quite literally. Now, this is where, if we see the northern shift, it becomes a bit of an issue. It's not. Now, the one thing you could argue is some of the stronger compounds aren't as relevant as they sometimes can be. You'd say if it is going to be a military circle, you look towards FaZe. That whole line, that road that runs up is incredibly strong. It can most often bring you the winner of that circle. However, with it having this much of the east and the north still within this circle, this could be anyone's game. But you look at the bridges, they are going to be littered with teams and players. Genesis are all in a car and they're sending it. Now, luckily for them, no one's camping this side. No one's there yet. They may have scouted it quick, they may have not. I don't know what's given them this sort of courage, but they're just going.
This could be a massive payday for the simple fact that all the other teams, they're going to be lacking boats. There's going to be nothing left. The fact that everyone's already taken them, I'm seeing the Rumblers have taken 2 boats, VC took 2 boats, FaZe took 2 boats. That's all off just around between Prim and Ferry Pier area. Rusty Zera's already on the hillside looking around, and we've got it. We do have the bridge encampment being set up. Will 4AM also do the same thing on the opposing side? Because if they do, they'll be get the bottleneck effect.
Surely not. If you...
Oh, they've got that. There's one there. I'm seeing Lou.
They might just be trying to, like, you know,
please
move across one by one. I prefer that.
Do it. Be that guy.
I think that's better. I prefer this. I prefer them falling away, moving back. Freaka Freaks could get a glimpse on this because they are up by the Harry Potter. They are just off, so they should hear these vehicles out. They'll definitely get a spot, so they know what's coming their way. I don't know if 4AM's going to give them much of a fight here, though. Is that worth it down the line? Again, Freaka Freaks in a 2-2. It's not going to be a clean wipe. They do get the engage. As towards Xiaolu, I don't know if they're going to get a kill from this. I don't know if I agree with that fight.
This western bridge is deadly, because if you get past Genesis in this, what is going to be a dungeon run, the Rumblers are on the hillside to the left. So initially, when you go across there, you're looking towards it. You come off the bridge, you've got a big hill on your left. You say, you know what? I'm not doing that. You always generally turn right and take the embankment. When you take the embankment, the Rumblers are rumbling up there. And if you're weak, if your vehicles are damaged, you're going to be dead. That's 8. No, that's 8 players from MPL that are going to be shooting you as you come off of that bridge. That's a no survivability scenario, in my opinion.
And Ghost Gaming taking the more reserved approach. They're heading around the kind of eastern side. They're in the boats. They pulled up. And they're now making it towards landfall. They're going towards the radio tower. You can just see it cresting off in the distance. McCoy and the boys running up. They're perfectly fine. Actually not too much of a threat just yet. If they go too far, they might get a little bit of a scuffle. But I don't believe anyone's directly in the radio tower at the moment. So they could actually take that one for free if they fancied. Maybe not ideal to transition away from. We have to look at the teams who are not yet in the circle as well. Some still out by Milter, some as far as Shelter, some way off in the coast. This is a bit of a late run coming in from VC.
I love how you touched on that when it comes to Ghost Gaming. The aerial tower is incredible. You just play up there, you've got so much viewership of all the teams below you. Should the circle be extremely unfavorable, it becomes really difficult to rotate off of. They don't have vehicles, but you can't take them up anywhere. If you do, you're just being silly. Moving back down, AFF and 4AM are just going to completely mop you up. Saying that, both of those two teams in the kill feed have engaged, finally. Willis does go down. That's a headshot from the SKS. Out in the open going... Oh, they baited him. They waited until he got to the vehicle and knocked him straight out of it.
Maybe that 2-2 does pay off. NN trying to readjust. We see it centralizing right on the military area. Basically, FaZe, they moved across from that western roadside. They took the opportunity. They were there early. Keep in mind, they were looting over by Primorsk. They had a really good jump-off spot. They were there quick. And actually, 4AM are going to have a bit of a problem here. They have teams behind them now. This is not how they wanted to approach this island. They're pinched. And I'm surprised the Freaks have gotten away with this split because no one's pressured them at all.
You should not get this res. They've no idea where he is. They don't have another smoke here, so if he sees him, if he doesn't look to the left... Oh, he's so focused on the V... If they get this, this is just insanity.
Do they have any more smokes, though?
I don't think so. Style will now be looking at forever, surely. He'll have to look for him.
And then if he peeks this a great deal, I think he's already received some fire, though, so I don't think he can freely peek it as much as maybe he'd like. If Forever or ZGG see him, you're not going to get it, so that could be an isolation there. This could be a problem.
Oh, okay, so what he did was he ran out, he exposed himself, but it would detect the grenades off the floor. He passed him and said, you know what, here's a grenade. See if you can get the smoke down. It was a good idea. Unfortunately, by doing so and going to pick up the smoke, it gave away his position. Now he's dead. Before AM lose one. I've only seen 5 deaths so far, though. This is in 14 minutes, Lauren. This is going to be a long game.
It is. We could see that bridge camp coming across, especially in the west side. As soon as they make land, that could be hard for Force to try and make it past Genesis if they have a player watching it. I don't think they do right now, but they'll see him if they make it anywhere close, as Nerf might consider it ZGG. And it is going to be 4AM trying to readjust here, but they've been met by another team. T1 say hello again. Maybe a bit of sweet revenge, and it looks real good for Adder. Waiting coiled and patient, he peeks the ridge and finds Forever. These are going to be flushes all day long. Now, I'm kind of surprised at 4AM. They got caught up. They got focused on Freaks. They got real tunnel vision. And as soon as they tried to move, T1 find the perfect timing.
I might not realize that lose the last man, but if they do, that'll be
first to last.
From hero to zero. Touching it now. The next victim might be Gen G, though. They're coming off the hills. Excuse me, they're coming off the bridge. T1 has heard them.
What?
I'm actually hearing it. I'm seeing the bullets. They're in all kinds of trouble. Lose there as well. He'll catch them. Oh my God, they have to run the gauntlet. They've gone past T1. They've gone past 4AM, and now they're coming up to AFF. They're pulling directly in. We have to get a quick look on this one because they've got 2 vehicles, and Gen G might not be able to go too much further.
Veselotch looks pretty dead here. Shrimzy's the one who's actually caught off. There's the Gen G kills. You're seeing him in the kill feed. That's as they came across the eastern bridge. And this is the pull-up, and it's gone very badly. A Freaks wait, and they strike so perfectly. They're mopping up the kills. Gen G came across so late in the day. They were gambling to come at this point. They knew their fate would be in other teams' hands, and well, it's worked out well for a Freaks. They've held this eastern side.
It'll be interesting to see Shrimzy gets back on his feet. I think he's too disconnected in the blue. Gen G get themselves back to a 2-man stack. The res did get popped off. Genesis, by the way, are holding the bridge. We still have Na'Vi. We still have one player from Enters Force all there. They are waiting. This is a bridge camp, but it's pricey because they're in the blue.
Look at T1. They're pushing towards AHQ here as well. That's a big fight going over in the east. There's going to be a lot of kills here, guys, so try and keep up.
Profi got greedy.
Indeed, they did. Na'Vi just about doing some more damage. I don't know how they're still standing at this point. We are going to be seeing both sides. The eastern... I don't even say the west here. It's mostly the east. The west is a bit of a bridge camp and maybe some shots from FaZe. The east is going to be the tough part. You have T1 in between AHQ and AFF. Down below that, the remainders of Gen G. This is the battle we're looking at. T1 in trouble. They're trying to stay alive. AHQ look hungry. They're going to be pushing for these knocks and these flushes so they can try and get some points for themselves. They have 1 confirmed kill thus far, and they could certainly get some more.
You have to be disappointed if you're T1. Outside in the open, 16th place will be the tombstone for them. Rather unfortunate. 4 teams are now inside. Oh, Enters has gone as well. Veselotch bleeds out the wayside. Esther, he's down. Not dead just yet. Could come back to haunt his dreams. Should he be alive and allowed to get his teammate on the res? It'll be Loki, last man standing here. And I think we might just unfortunately be seeing 2 Korean teams falling back to back.
Yeah, this eastern approach is now very uncomfortable for most teams. They've been in several fights. Their gear's probably not looking ideal here, or maybe they're down on meds. You are seeing a Freaks falling down here, and it is going to be down to Loki to try and do something, work their way in. And behind him, you've got the remainder of 4AM. So there is nowhere safe. There is nowhere comfortable to be. You may make it this far using the low ground, but just up towards your top. And this could be the fall of 4AM. Let's see if Xiaolu can stay alive. Does get a heal off. Still has 5 to go as well. Does not want to go down yet, but I think that might be his fate as Star is looking over the ridge.
Genesis are getting hit from behind. They spent a lot of time out there hunting people on the bridge, and it's cost them dearly. Profi was caught off guard, and now Nerf and the rest of the boys are foiling at the wayside. It comes down to K-Mind and H-Win. H-Win pulled off something fantastic in the last one, ironically, against Red Canids. Can he do it again? That's the question, Lauren.
I like H-Win using the low ground here. I really hope he can pull it off, but it looks like the Red Canids might be aware. Look at that triangle. No, he wasn't. Caught off guard. H-Win gets it, but is the trade coming back through? There is still a player standing. He wants the flush, though. Now reaching out the smoke. He gets the shot. H-Win! He just spun it around and destroys them. The Red Canids must be fuming.
He does it again. Same team, same scenario. H-Win picking up the points. Red Canids going out.
But let's quickly focus on what's in front of us. VC on their knees. They're not looking so good here. The fight comes in. There goes 4AM. We're going to see Xiaolu going down. That was W-Click catching that one again in the east. Not surprising there. The fight towards the isolated building across the road from the military base continues. That's with Ghost there and VC, I believe. As you're going to see a bit of an off angle for, I believe it's Tide down in the southeast side. This is FaZe Clan, quite centralized previously, but they have not yet moved further across. They stayed themselves towards the northwest side, getting a glimpse of Genesis as they're working their way towards the military base itself.
We've not seen too much of this VC Ghost gaming fight, so I'd love to check in on it. You're going to see in the kill feed AFF going down because W-Click is just scouting and cleaning up. The last 2 players from Genesis do arrive, but it's not without a welcome wagon. The Rumblers are in front of them, FaZe up in the hillside. Ghost Gaming with 2 made it to those buildings, and they really shouldn't have done. That's on VC that let them get towards the door side.
Look how close K-Mine's got to this, though. The Rumblers are on the move. They're not sticking around. They don't want this anymore. Even if they win that fight, they lose out on spot. So they got to look towards the future here. But with the fire in the back, it was always going to be FaZe at least catching one. H-Win was the victim of that. K-Mine might have just made it away in towards cover, however.
Ghost Gaming does finally go down. VC at least lose, I think, 2 players during that engagement, possibly more. It was 2 indeed. DG Boy and Tide, last 2 standing. Mexi wants to try and finish off Genesis. K-Mine, last man standing. H-Win, no revival comes through for you. Microfry and the boys from Rumblers, they'll be getting ready in the back to make the advancement because they have to get past the apartment block. And that's going to be a difficult one because Lin has disconnected himself from the rest of the team and moved towards the police side, which denies a point of entry and also more angles to make an approach towards those apartments.
Oh, K-Mind. He's trying it. He wants his teammate with him. He's fighting for it too. The Blue's coming in. The Rumblers know someone's behind them, but he's still trying to get his teammate up. If H-Win gets alive, maybe get some meds off, there's a chance he could survive, but look at Lost HD. Eyes trained on the push-up as soon as they leave that satellite building. As soon as they move forward, they're in danger. FaZe now need to look at the circle themselves. They've controlled the northwest, for sure. They've done a bit of damage, but 0 kills to boot.
W-Click's in the best position at the moment. They're on top of the hill in the most central of this circle. Anything can happen. It's Pubg. Circle could be unfavorable. A team might stab them in the back. Lambu, last man for Freak of Freaks. DJ Boy and Tide also just at the foothill of where they are. AHQ, CC and Yan Lee also yet to do something. Back burning, back building. Enters Ace. All the way to the top end of this circle in the north. They're on the very edge of the white. They will play it slow. The central area is just completely open, so it's going to be an edge game.
He is. Genesis trying to make the run. The gauntlet is now set. They're going to have to dip into the blue slightly if they want to try and make it across. No, they try and make the mad dash for it and Cherry Pop, and you can see the shots coming through. H-Win goes down again with a banger from Microfry as K-Mind again left. But one is lonesome. I don't think he can make it much further on here. There's too many lines of sight towards him. Even if he gets his heal off, it's going to be such a run of terror, and I think he knows that he's just not going to make it any further, although the engage towards the Rumblers might give him a window of opportunity. However, it may be slim, and I don't know if he can out-survive the blue.
I'm surprised he's going for it because there is a point here where you might want to say, I'll just deny this altogether and not give anybody any points. But if you've got the meds and you K-Mine, then why the hell not?
If you paid attention to the kill feed and he saw the Rumblers getting attention from infantry, that's a good bit of play. Under all that pressure, he kept his calm. He looked towards the kill feed. He found out, okay, they're getting a bit of pressure elsewhere. This is my time to move. Really good play. And while that begins, infantry is starting to make it hurt towards the Rumblers. That's another knocked. That's not looking so good. And they're locked in towards his garage. Another nade comes through. That one not going to thread the needle there. A little ambitious, but that one could do some work.
It's going to be inside. We'll see any of the frags are picked up. Cherry Poppins sees Lynn behind the wall. K-Mine lingering in the distance now. You spoke about it perfectly. It could be time to get involved here at least. Removes one before going down. Genesis is out, but the battle will continue. Infantry now take out the Rumblers. They held the apartment block for some time. They had the information, but now they don't have the time whatsoever. They have got a bit of an open trek. If FaZe Clan is reading all these shots, they could get set up on the hillside and deny them any entry point into this next circle.
Oh, Senya. He's just finally come out of cover, and he instantly gets shots towards him from the other PEL team. That's FaZe coming through from afar. Their first kill this game. Not ideal for them, quiet for maybe what they'd like, but maybe playing for the slow burn, playing for the placement that they desperately need after that first very poor performance. We have 7 teams remaining.
Mexi and Aitzi are so important here. They have to watch for players coming out of the military base. If infantry are allowed to cross the road and get to the footholds of the hill in a position where they kept and left unchecked, then that's the downfall of FaZe. Vehicles out, you've got to make the cross, and they're going for it. This will be dangerous.
AC had so much of a chance then, but they actually made it through to the foot of the hill. There goes the molly, and he wants to deny them some angles. Maybe get some nades down, do what he can to control the area they're in. But infantry are getting fire from afar. That's VC tied. Breaks against one of them, and now looks for more. He's got the perfect line of sight. If that vehicle was just removed, he's desperate for a pixel, but he can't get anything, and he has to be careful. If FaZe peek that ridgeline, he could be spotted, and now they're losing out on players.
DJ Boy's been taken away from this one, so the pressure relinquished from infantry for all but a second. Fuzzface is disconnected from the rest of FaZe Clan. He'll keep a check on those in the north and make sure they can't make any advancement from behind. 3 players of FaZe stand in line though, and they want to take infantry head on. They need to remove them. This is an objective in their way to victory. Mexi off angle for now. Bullets will come through. He has tracked his target. Aitzi, you can't stand still like that, brother. They'll take a bullet to the head and it'll cost you your life.
Complacent from FaZe, and now infantry still stand. They've managed to stand I guess the test of time here.
Tunnel
Surprising.
vision.
VC lose out on their final player. He's gone. All in the meantime, W-Click look more and more diligent at holding center point. Fuzzface needs to come forward to support his side because infantry are on the push. They want to end what they started. Uber's in danger. Arguably one of the best in the world falls. And FaZe fumble again. This is not what you want to be seeing from these guys. They look cold. They do not look on point. And now Fuzzface is your last man standing as the rest of his team just got slaughtered.
Multiple faults there, standing still in the open, letting infantry cross the road. They should have been front and center, watching them, keeping them lined up and denying any point. Now you've let them get across the wall. Now you've let them get up the hill, and it's cost you 3 of your players. Fuzzface, I know you're a bit of a god, my man, but going up against 3 of these individuals, it might have just lost you this match.
See if he can do anything to salvage this one for the side. AHQ towards the north, being meticulous in approach, taking their time, clearing as they go. W-Click might be their biggest challenger, but then remind yourself, a Freak still have Lambu in the southeast. He could be that dagger in the back, and infantry clan have flashed. Fuzzface still trying to be a nuisance down here.
I want to see if CC can do any more damage with this M24. I've been seeing him the kill feed. I don't know how many knocks he's had during this game, but he's got range, he's got the gun, he's got the weaponry. Longscale try and bait out Fuzz to show his hand. Hiding up against the tree, I don't think there's anything he can really do. Or go for the knock of the insta-flush.
He ain't moving for love nor money, is he?
I wouldn't either.
No, there's the engagement. Lambu gets spotted, excuse me. So that's him removed. Again, the Snakes aren't getting away with much here. So we are down to 4 teams now. We see a couple of shots. That could be AHQ being spotted out. So they've lost that little bit of a surprise element they may have had previously. You're seeing Infantry Clan, again, still unsure of where that final member of FaZe may reside.
AHQ held dead to rights. The Groza in hand would suggest that he's wearing level 3 gear, which gives him a peeker's advantage, so to speak, to put that M24 to good use.
This is such a nice position, though. Look at Harold's spot. Really nice little bit of elevation to be able to look down this hill, get the spot, relay that to Ribbo potentially. This could be big for them. Another tag comes in. If they have a nade,
big nade,
that could be done. That could be HQ losing out on one of their players here.
Not far enough.
The trees.
Try and follow up with a second one. They've lost track of where he's gone. Longska now wants to get involved in this one. Fuzzface, again, you spoke about not really showing his face. So for infantry, they just need to keep track of W-Click, and that's why I kind of like what W-Click is doing by sending 2 forward, then Ribox in the back just to keep a track of AHQ. It's really good read, but they are very scared and very aware, should I say, not scared, of what's lingering just behind them, and that's why they're on edge. They keep turning around, they keep disconnecting from this AHQ fight. It's only one player. Why focus so much on one player? You saw what happened to Aitzi. He looked down the hillside, held still, and then VC just says, you know what, that's a free and easy knock.
In the vehicle he goes. Great play, but I guess it is mobile cover at this point. You never know what scenario you're going to be left with. Taking that away, looking for that final player, still trying to find Yan Lee. He is being incredibly patient in the north side. With 4 teams, though, it's a bit of a stalemate. Infantry can't push past Fuzzface. He holds the key to the north, and he'll at least get one. I would bank a fair amount of money on the fact he'll at least trade one or slow them down. So it's a dangerous push for them if they are even slightly aware of it. They could wrap on the south side for Infantry. But W-Click aren't exactly a team to be messed with. Already the tag comes in towards the HQ remainder. He's not looking so bright now, as Ribo does dispatch of him, and we're down to 3 teams.
Top 3 again for W-Click. Good job from these boys. Latam has come out to play. Infantry, what's the choice? You hold top of the hillside for now, but you're not the closest to the center. They're very aware that Fuzzface is an obstacle that they have to deal with, and that's why Buliang is looking this way. I love how you touched on it. If he sees anyone, Lauren, he's going to go for the knock of the insta-flush. Pick up the point before you go down and die. You might as well.
Okay, so the game plan, look at it this way. Fuzzface is just banking on the 2 other teams fighting. He has no idea it's a 3v3 between them. He's just going to try and play that final man. He does not want to be the first to fight. Neither of these teams want to be either. A little bit of bait coming out. See if Infantry fall for it. No, they look patient. This high ground still sits, I argue, with W-Click, but they have their backs to the blue. Ribo. He's in the vehicle, moving it forward, giving away sound cues, trying to bait them in. Low ground push. 2-man low ground push, trying to avoid line of sight. Nice, smart play coming in from Infantry Clan, but can they convert this? Are W-Click even aware of the chance of this? They're getting closer and closer to W-Click. If they hear noise, they could spring on this one. But look at Ribo, he's starting to think about where maybe the other teams are. Maybe they're thinking it's on the north side.
Fuzzface also is now on foot. He's out of his treehouse and looking for blood. Made it to top 3, and that's fine. For the vehicle, it's good because it becomes a bit of a noise function to draw people in and give the attention, but it's also mobile cover. You can stand behind that thing. It takes a fair old amount of damage. Gives you another point of entry on this one. Longsker, most center, but he knows that where he is, once he goes over this, he's exposed.
I think they might have seen Fuzzface. They've definitely seen that smoke coming out. It's going to be down to 2 teams. There he goes. But now what does Infantry do? Is it go time? Will they springboard off the back, or will they wait and be patient? It looks like they want to use that 2-man hit squad, but the first point of contact comes in. That's nice play from Infantry, and there's the first kill to follow. W-Click now on the receiving end. Where's the trade back? It's only Ribo to fight back so far, and it's just down to him at this point, as you're going to see Infantry Clan desperate to make up for the performance they had. And they dug deep for that one.
This is going to feel good. After yesterday, Infantry Clan, they're a team that needs to pick up as many points as humanly possible today. This is it. This is their one chance to make it to Oakland. Every game matters. With 11 kills and a win as well. That is the road to redemption. This is wonderful. It's a team that we said we would love to see them perform today. Hopefully this is a good start.
Remind yourself, take a second to think about it at home. They were only playing with 3 players for a short amount of time. Then had to go to the hospital. He was taken care of. He came back on the same day. And now today, they close a win. That is huge determination from this team.
The bigger ramifications of that, yes, you're playing with 3 players. It's a big enough problem in itself. But to lose an individual so strong as Lin, such an individual dependent player, to remove your best one, not only is it hard to play with 3, but goddamn, you're just adding to the amount of pressure. But here's hoping that this is the sign of a start of things to come.
Yeah, and I love that low ground push that they implemented there. They were so proactive in that final moment. I feel that W-Click got so focused towards Fuzzface, maybe feeling that it was the other team that had more players, maybe not reading as much information as W-Click had, as they were the ones who engaged FaZe just a moment earlier. So I think for me, considering the information they had, they played it out incredibly well.
I'm not taking anything away from WClick at all. That's 2 top 3 placements back to back.
Yep.
Like, you play with consistency like that, you're going to bank the numbers that the other teams that are above you won't be there every single time. The Rumblers, 3 seconds yesterday. It's one way to win.
Feels like it could be anyone's game. Let's find out how the desk feel after game 2.
That's right, it's a potential dream start here for Infantry Clan after they yesterday had to go through the trials and tribulations, which the game did not set upon them. But now, so far, they are on the road to true recovery here for day number 2. And then with that as well, China shows up strong in our first 2 games, taking the back-to-back overall. A fantastic start here for China, and then Infantry getting that win.
I mean, I think, yes, it has been a great one. That's sort of going to be the narrative for throughout what's starting to feel like the day right now is the East came to play today. But do not forget about WClick. They just brought it up. That's 2 top 3 finishes, one after another. That one with 10 kills. But I'm going to stick with Infantry. Lin is back. Their presence has been made known. And you heard the crowd out there. Everyone, I don't care where you're from right now. I don't care what region you're from. We're all fans of Infantry today.
Oh, absolutely.
I really liked how we had these 3 teams in the end there, because all of them had such a different play style. You had WClick, who went to the center all the time. They were literally just hugging center. They wanted to play from there. Even if it maybe wasn't the best position to play from. You have Infantry. They were super proactive all the time throughout the whole game, moving around, making sure they were getting the best position. Then you have FaZe Clan. They're playing on the edge for control all the time, making sure we want as much control as possible.
Well, before I get your thoughts, Martin, let's head into the highlights here for our game number 2 on Erangel. We went down to Millie, Avenger.
Overall, this game here, it was a lot of chaos. You see it here from the start. There's a lot of gatekeeping. There's a blue camming. Navi ended up fighting on the western side. There's a lot of overall a chaotic game. And I didn't expect it to go down that kind, where we are sitting down with only 11 teams once the circle closes finally on the military.
This could be one of the most chaotic military game we had, considering how early we already knew it was going to be a military circle. We saw a lot of the teams, especially Korean teams, were on the northeast side fighting each other. Gen G, they went for the boats on the east side, but Ghost Gaming already took them early in the game.
I mean, it feels like PO... he's making calls, but it's just everyone seems to be a few steps ahead of him. He brought his whole team on the massive rotation. They waited longer for meds. They went looking for those boats, but they were long gone. 2 other teams had already stopped by to try to get
those kind of moves to me say it's a move that exists in your region when you're going up against the top teams, and then the lower half is the teams that aren't that strong. Maybe you can get away with it. Here on the grand stage, though, Avenger, where you're playing against all the best teams in the world, those moves aren't going to fly.
You have to expect that the density of the circle, like there's always going to be a player once you get into the circle, especially in circle 2 and 3 here. Overall, though, FaZe, they managed to have a really good position for a long time, but didn't get the most of it. Also nice to see from the Rumblers here to gatekeep and effectively make sure that Genesis died, but they fault themselves because they wanted to make sure that Genesis didn't get in, and Infantry punished that very hard.
And that is the win coming in. It's great to see it. Infantry Clan get themselves the win here to start things off for the day. It is game 2, of course, and they need to make up even just a few more points here to try and get themselves towards Oakland. But it is a great start here. All 4 standing strong. Let's check in with how things actually went and developed throughout this game as well, as we have the match results. I keep getting juked, because sometimes we show the play, sometimes we show the match results, and that's how that goes. We have 21 points coming in for Infantry Clan, 16 points for WClick, and you touched on this just a little bit before, Toffees, but WClick, 2 third places back-to-back. Well, a 3rd place and a 2nd place is great for them.
It's great, and it's coming from a region that I genuinely believe, like, we bantered a little bit like, oh, North America doesn't get enough respect from Europe, but the reality is Latin America doesn't get respect, and I think part of that is they sort of had to sit under the helm of Secret for a long time, and that slowed down the growth of the region. But now that these teams have been able to really represent themselves, teams like WClick are proving that they came to play and they've got the skill to do it.
That's fair. It was a blotch on the region.
It really was.
Fair to say, you know, we make no bones about it. It was a blotch, but they are showing up pros.
Yeah, what I really like is we saw them in the first game. They only had 3 kills. They were playing a lot more passive, but coming into this game, even though playing the center, they were very much more active. To look for the kills, and I mean, get himself 10 of them. That's pretty good.
I'm extremely happy to see Infantry up here. This recovery in multiple ways is just they put themselves up there. They're sitting on 29 points total, which means they're actually in the top 16 and looking pretty good if they continue this this performance throughout today.
I feel like there's a huge shakeup already, even just 2 games in for today. Because if you look at this overall leaderboard, this isn't the full points that our Group B has accrued, but you see how many points Group B has accrued today, and it's not that many.
I mean, the reality is yesterday, Force became a top 3 team in 2 games. That means that any team, including Infantry, who's so far behind, 8 points total yesterday, if they have a couple of good games and they've already got one in the pocket, they're right back in that top 16 mix.
Definitely so. Gentlemen, do you know what time it is?
Tool
No,
time?
it's not that time.
Break time.
We are going to have another listen in here at the PGC, and we're going to find out what team it is right now.
头上没看到，这样你头上没看到。你们头上往南架，别顶了，这样别顶了，别顶了。真图，蹲下真图。死了，33。别急，不急。左边，你们可以顶一下。顶上打残了一个，两枪，顶上一个，倒了一个。右边2个，右边1个3。我顶了，左边全面，打还剩一个，还有一个大残，没子弹了，nice。
Avenger, but a little bit more chaotic here compared to what we were seeing from 4 a.m. Again, I have no clue what's going on, but
well, you gotta give it to them. They had a really bad day yesterday. Coming back here, getting that win.
Energy's there.
Exactly. More pressure on them as well to actually do good. Being in the top 3 there as well. Top 3 fight. I mean, it means a lot for them.
And with that, gentlemen, we are done. We have one more game of Erangel coming up in a few moments' time when we return here. We're 2 games down at the PGC for Groups B and C. We'll see you in a second.
Exclusive Black Equalizer brightens dark scenes without overexposing bright areas. Color Vibrance allows for more realistic and vibrant colors. It also provides the convenience to tune colors in-game, making you see the change instantly.
It's always great to see the eye tracking software giving us a bit of extra detail as to what's going on.
the second chance that the teams are going to get here, and this will be the last chance if they don't make it. So they got to step up right now.
I mean, every chip that they have left is on the table, and these teams have to go all in. For some of them, like Liquid, the deck is stacked against them, where they've got to really, really push out of the gate hard to sort of get that momentum to catch up to the top teams.
I think it's going as expected, except for Team Liquid. That's the only, like, Team Liquid and Detonator. I'm surprised they're in this lobby.
See, Detonator's in a little bit of trouble here. Yep, okay, a lot bit of trouble as they go out in 12th place. That is bad news for that squad. As you can see, they were sitting in 13th going into this.
One team for sure that's going home. Maybe G2.
Definitely G2, I think.
Like G2 and Liquid don't look like they're in a good spot.
Yeah, I feel like G2, they've been doing so bad for like 2 days now. They're not showing any sign of coming back.
G2 is falling apart here as GYY coming up clutch.
Nelo's left in a very, very difficult situation, to say the least.
Ellis doing everything he can to keep G2 in this.
That would suggest that he doesn't have bandages, he doesn't have stims, and he also no longer has a place on this server because G2 are dead.
They're teams that, like, they're so powerful that they can just come back with back-to-back wins or, like, even insane games.
4 versus 2, Team Liquid are returning. Do not count out Team Liquid. 11 kill win. They have returned.
Made some good zones for us. Yeah, good zones. Yeah. About time. We've had only hardships from us, so it's been really rough. But at the same time, we've been playing like shit.
방금 뒤에 리퀴드가 1등 했던 것처럼 저희도 1등해서 세미파이널까지 노력해봐야죠.
Looking risky.
Oh, Detonator.
Oh no.
Right now, the last remaining player up for the squad from Korea.
And
that's going to do it.
Detonator, 16th place in this one.
输压一点，一点点，这是我们赢的。
More comfortable. 我们就比较舒服一点。那是你，那是他。可是那是他。
Teams like this, to the Latin America teams, I feel like they're going to go home today.
They want to play a spoiler to this. QM. One more player, 2 individuals. That's 2 points, 2 potential frags. Jukesy, QM, they're both there.
Yiz is going to go down, and yes, that's going to be Red Cannons with a 5-kill win. We don't know how the placements are. We gotta give respect and props to Red Cannons, the Latin American team coming out of nowhere here in the final game.
Eu acho que os últimos jogos, querendo ou não, a gente teve pouco de ajuda da Safe, mas a gente conseguiu fechar esse último jogo bem e a gente conseguiu pontuar bem também no São Roque e foi o que ajudou a gente a classificar.
There are 3 PEL teams in this elimination group, and 3 PEL teams did not make it. The next 8 teams that are going to be following them are to your left-hand side of your screen right there.
I forgot who was in the group. I just know it's the hardest group. I think there's 2 OGN.
It's Genji, both OGNC.
Yeah, both OGN.
And then there's
I think Navi
is in there.
And they like
Genesis is in there. Ifty is in there as well. NBC. Oh yeah.
VC's nuts. Yeah, I think VC is really good also.
We won't have such a hard time in the group because of the teams that are in the group. They're good teams, but they don't play the same play style as us. So I think we won't be running into them too much.
We have really good teams, but we also have like the 2 weakest teams in my opinion, so that helps as well.
Who are the 2 weakest?
I'm not gonna say.
Who are the strongest?
4 AM and FaZe and a Freaka Freaks, so that's gonna be difficult.
We're just happy that there's not teams like hard contesting us in our group, you know what I mean? Like none of the teams that are dropping super close to us ended up in our group, so that's always good.
So you're pretty confident?
I mean, you never know, but obviously we're happy with our group, so.
Welcome back, everyone, to the PUBG Global Championship. We are into day 2 of the semifinals. I'm Paper Thin. With me, we have a special guest. You may recognize him from the Season 5 intro videos. And if you get the Badlands Battle Pass, you yourself can look as wonderful as this gentleman here. Welcome, Caster Unknown.
I mess with all of the lighting on this right now. I know everybody's just like, oh my God, what's happening with my eyes? But yes, it has been a story of 4 people so far, it feels like. VC being back up to having 4 players on their team and 4 angry men. Back-to-back champions coming out for China. That's big.
China really showing up today. They struggled a bit yesterday. Now we are starting to see the full power of that region. The reason they came in with 4 out of 4 of their teams qualifying for the semifinals.
It has been a strong performance, but let's not forget about WClick. These guys have been making it into in-game 2 games and have had a fairly high kill count, all things considered. They're playing in a little bit more passive style we saw inside the group stage, but now a lot more confident, I feel, coming out, not being afraid to take fights.
Yeah, they were in a bit of a tricky situation at the end of game 1, kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place with 4AM and T1 next to them. In that last game, they looked very, very strong there at the end. Some really good positioning, some impressive movement early on to get themselves into that position.
And T1 has been hitting some hella crazy shots so far. Like, some of these long-range shots these guys are putting together are so absolutely amazing. We haven't seen them really had a powerful in-game as of yet, but if they can get to that stage, good Lord, everybody in this lobby better be ready.
Well, I can tell you what, Adder is a really strong player. I know everybody talked about Akkad coming into this. Previously,
you were
for a
talking
long
about
time,
Akkad coming into this.
I will talk about Akkad a lot.
Yes.
But Adder has historically actually been the top fragger for T1. So this is a guy that you can also rely on. There's a ton of talent in that team.
Oh, 100%. Rumblers also been showing up quite frequently. Everybody keeps calling him the dark horse, but I don't know. They said it inside the video a second ago. They don't play like anybody else, so they're not really ever afraid, and I feel like that shows in their playstyle.
It's really interesting talking to them outside of the matches. There's a lot of quiet confidence on that team. What I find really fascinating is they kind of play to however they tell me they're going to. They told me going into yesterday that they were going to be, strong, aggressive, just kind of play loose and have a good time, and they really did that. But then they also said, well, we're just going to get a donut on Sandhawk, and then they did that.
I mean, that's Rumblers. There is no, sneaky mind game that's happening with them. They've got goals, and it looks like we got some fans showing up, trying to support their teams here over at the OGN Super Arena. But now, a team that has been a little quiet so far is FaZe.
It's been interesting. In the first game, they got kind of torn apart between a couple different teams. Took a risky rotation coming up on the top side of Corey. That's always kind of a hit or miss, situation to be in, because if you take it and you can gain a lot of control, keep other teams from being able to encroach on that territory, you can hold it off pretty well. However, you're really exposed if anyone gets the same amount of high ground as you have.
Yeah, and you can see that was kind of the problem that they faced, but FaZe finding a nice little sneaky spot to hide on. That's one thing everybody can take back to their games at home. Remember that tree, because if you ever end up being a solo and you hide in that specific spot on that hillside, nobody ever checks it. You can manage to get yourself a couple more placement points out of it, almost guaranteed.
Yeah, and if you're not moving, it's so hard to tell with the color differentiation that somebody is inside of there, because most of the colors that you're wearing, the blacks and the darker colors, are going to blend in really well with that kind of situation.
Oh, 100%. Now, one thing to note as well, we've seen a lot, I would say, Western plane paths coming into these games so far. So, curious to see if we're going to get a little bit of a mix-up for our last Erangel game of the day.
I'm expecting something a little crazy. We did get the Sosnovka circle, so we've got our obligatory military island circle out of the way, I feel like. So now, maybe we're going to get something we've seen the West. Now maybe we'll get the East again. Our circles have been pretty favorable in terms of moving from side to side on the map.
Just please, no centralized circles. I want a barn burner of a game right now. I want it to be a little bit frisky going into this. Just don't make it quiet in the early game. I like to see the crazy rotations come into play. Whenever you're looking at this level of play, seeing how they analyze a difficult situation is just absolutely amazing.
Well, I tell you what, with that circle we had yesterday on the Erangel game, where it went over to Milton Power, I feel like maybe we had the most vehicles in frame in PUBG history at the same time, when everybody was trying to get into some kind of position there.
All right, well, the definite fan favorites, 4AM. These guys are amassing a ton of votes up here. And after that first game, you can see why.
They're amazing. They play with such confidence, such aggression. You can tell they're just dialed in. They know what they want to do. They know the fights they want to take. Reminds me of how TSM was playing yesterday. And this guy, I tell you what, I was watching ZG01 in scrims. This guy is nutty right now. He is feeling it today.
It feels like everybody on this team can just kind of unlock at different points. And we talked about this kind of moving into the day, that really what kind of defines a global championship is if your team has the capability to play out of a clutch situation. It is so strong on this team. I mean, they play angry. They live up to their name. They play aggressive.
Well, this is the moment where you make or break yourself as an international team. Who are your superstars going to be? There's some superstars maybe arising here on your screen. W-Click has looked darn good today. Zilzin, Rybox, Ragnar, and Harold. Man, I tell you what, I think a lot of people were kind of down on Lat AM coming in, but right now, these guys look like the real deal.
That's a strong team with a lot of experience across a lot of other teams forming up together. I mean, we've seen those guys' names in so many events, but Infantry was kind of the question mark. We saw the fact that there was a little bit of a medical issue happening yesterday with Lynn. He had to step away for a couple of games, came back, coming in strong. Now 4 members back up and walking away with a win.
Yeah, really important to have him back, of course. T1, these guys... my biggest question for T1 right now is Helen. Helen seems to be getting he's kind of falling into what I call the PO trap for the Korea teams. They like to do these 1-3 things. Helen will sometimes come out ahead. Now, generally T1 does 2-2, but I've noticed that Helen is getting caught out a lot on his own. The rest of T1 has been playing pretty dang solid.
And here we go, making our way back over to our last Erangel of the day. Plane path going to be cutting straight over Georgia Pool and ending up over Lippo, so nothing too crazy, but we don't ever see anybody make their way down towards military base unless they think it's a terrible plane path anyway. So going to open up a lot of opportunities we didn't see in earlier games on drops. Specifically, I've got my eye on Milta Power. That's a normal phase drop, but Rumblers have been strong in points yesterday, and they might look to contest.
Looks like Rumblers are already out of the plane, so maybe that question
never gonna give it to me.
Answered a little bit. You know, the Rumblers, again, I talked to them a lot. They're really nice guys, and they said to me today, they think 20 to 30 points today will for sure guarantee them a spot in the finals. So I think for them, today is going to just be, hey, let's just play our game. Let's not try to contest anybody early. We don't really need to do that to get the points to get to the finals. Let's just, work things through that way.
And this is great if you're a FaZe fan, because now you're going to have a little bit more space for your team to work with back down over in this area. Yeah, they're going to be able to go back to, I would say, their comfort drop. So nothing too crazy coming into play here, but I think it's all about Infantry right now. Can they replicate the play styles that we were kind of expecting from them? We saw them be very aggressive early in the group stage, and then that kind of died off as well as their points started to. It almost like they got in their own head. But now they're starting to be a little bit more comfortable inside of this map and starting to play it the way I feel like they want to play.
And of course, here we go. We're going to start off with the Pachinki battle. Again, Duya bounces a grenade. It doesn't get inside here. He's coming up with that double barrel shotgun. Opts to not go all the way up the stairs. Nerf has bounced out of the window himself and isn't interested in this fight yet.
We got shotguns, we got Tommy guns, we got UMPs. They're going crazy. That's another Force member down right there. So down to 3, trying to figure out how they're going to handle this. We can see that it's not quite the chaotic drop we saw in the earlier games, but it's still very contested around this location. The new circle is popped, very centralized. I was hoping for something a little bit more interesting, but maybe the next circle will give it to us. But we got a lot going on in Pachinki right now, so I'm not going to complain.
You jinxed it. And once again, it's Duya coming out as the first person to go down for Entus Force. Now, I think Genesis is definitely going to deny this. There is no way the other members of Entus Force are going to be able to get here in time, especially with Sungjang dropping so far outside of this, and all he's got is a mutant right now. So there isn't much going on here. What I thought coming into today, that maybe potentially Entus Force might try to up the aggression a little bit to try to bop Genesis out of here, not only because they want to take control of Pachinki, but also going into the finals, assuming they make it, they want to be the sole team in control of Pachinki.
This was a very interesting play coming up from Force, opting to be a little bit aggressive with the double barrel, trying to run up in the face when they have 2 members that didn't really drop Pachinki proper and on the outskirts. That put them already in a disadvantaged position. I wonder if that's kind of one of the reasons they opted to try to go for that aggression, because they knew they were outnumbered, but it just ended up blowing up in their face.
Well, the Korean teams love the shotguns, and once they get one in their hands, they feel really confident in these city battles. But look at this. Look at these angles that Genesis has to hold down. Incredible shooting, first of all, from Profi. But we see this again. Genesis knows the angles inside of Pachinki where they can get these cheeky little pickups.
So it should be noted that Force is back over towards the west, where there are a lot of car spawns along that road. So they're going to be able to get the utility out of that. There is still the car spawn that's going to be over in Pachinki proper that Genesis should be able to walk away with. But I feel that's why we keep seeing Genesis in the early game all stacked up into one car, because that's the one car that they can get, and it feels like Force is taking all the rest of them away. In a circle like this, they're not going to have to rotate too far, but neither one of these teams really want to stay in Pachinki for the remainder of the game. They're going to try to move out.
Absolutely, they got to get going. Let's talk about a few other teams out and about on the map. I want to talk about the Milta Power situation. Afrika Freaks Fatal has taken over Milta Power from FaZe. FaZe moved over to Milta. Not a huge difference between those two, essentially, but it's kind of interesting to note. Other than that, you don't have too much else going on, except I would say Entus Ace way up in Severny, which is definitely not a comfortable place for them.
AHQ is just running right up on this complex. Could be another problem for Force. Full on defense. You can see grabbing what little he can right now, trying to get set up, as it's going to be a full push coming up from AHQ. Force is trying to figure out, okay, how do I get out of this situation? Do I just play it? Do I go for a kill point off of it? No reinforcements capable of coming through. Kale's got the hillside back down to the south, but Spray comes out. Does manage to get one, trying to go for the flush onto it, but it's a lot of bullets coming out of the... So you got to be very cautious. The rest of AHQ is now starting to make their push off the side of it, and you can see reaction coming out from Force, moving to the second story. Yeah, Yanli's trying to get underneath this grenade, but he is able to get up the stairs just enough in time. A really nicely placed grenade by Sungjang, using a smoke there as well to continue to give himself some kind of cover and support. Yanli does not know that Sungjang moved into the other room. He's using the noise from the smoke. I like this. Get a little bit more time. Let Kale get into position. Provide some cover on the outside. You just have to make sure you hold down the second story. That's what that grenade bought them. Now Kale can move back down off of this, provide a little bit of support as to what's happening in this situation, because Force cannot afford to lose another member at this stage. And I'm looking at the map, and right now, none of the other members of AHQ are moving in on this, so they might feel like they're going to rely on Yanli. It's just Milk left, but it is going to be Kale getting Yanli on the stairs. Nice, unexpected angle coming up for that. That's going to be an easy flush out, and now control of this location goes over to Force as AHQ is separated away from it. Really nice job there by Sungjang, buying a ton of time for Kale to get in there. Heady, smart up plays from him, and that is going to be a nice little start here for Entus Force, despite losing Duya early. And I like this. Go ahead and make sure to clear around. They don't know how many members could be potentially still in the spot, so still look around for it. Don't just rush in and think that you've got it won. Meanwhile, you can see W-Click looking back over towards infantry. Everybody's kind of making their way up on this location. That's just the west, or just towards the east of Pachinki right now. That's that popular Potato Mountain location that a lot of people like to play, but so many teams opting into center. Now, do note, there is the river that's going up towards the north. We really have Ace that's up there right now, and one of the members for Red Canids. Everybody else is opting back down towards the southern part of that river. Well, it's just weird because it's really hard to come across from the northern side to the southern side of the river. There's a lot more compounds along the southern side of the river to gatekeep it. So ideally, you don't want to be on the northern side. Now, that being said, I'd still say there's maybe like a 20-25% chance this circle goes north. ZG. This is what was happening on the other side with AHQ. They got called out. ZGG01 managed to take down another member of it, and then everything started coming apart for AHQ, so Milk just had to leave. Yeah, this guy has been really powerful for 4 Angry Men. This whole team, very, very strong. Right now seems to be our strongest Chinese team, coming through, being one of the only Chinese team that came through directly into the semifinals. The other ones had to fight their way through the elimination stage. Aspu finding himself in a little bit of a spot as Joy's taking a couple of shots back over towards him, trying to get control over these buildings north of the river right now. It's an odd little skirmish to go on, but the rest of the Red Canids are separated down around Razak, so not any support capable of coming anytime soon. Yeah, you can see they're just trying to fan out Entus Ace. They know that pretty much most of the northern part of the circle is theirs at this point. Nobody else is really going to want to take that risk. You just have one member of Red across, and as well, you have one member of Gen G on the other side of the river, just to establish beachheads in case there is a drastic shift. I mean, there's always the chance of the hard shift up towards the north, and that's where things could get a little bit more chaotic. Everybody's opting towards center right now, just trying to play the math game, hoping that they don't have to make another big rotation out of it. I mean, we're still at 60 alive at this stage right now, and looks like Joy's decided, it's not really worth staying contained in the spot, so instead let's do a little bit more scouting and regroup. Yeah, absolutely. You can see FaZe. They have moved over to the northwestern part of Farm, so they're rolling up on the backside of infantry and W-Click potentially. Afrika Freaks Fatal has made a longer rotation, more northern. They could find themselves on the backside of T1, potentially south of Yasnaya, unless they want to keep going more north, but it gets a little more dangerous the more north you get because of all those fields. I love this position that we see FaZe Clan playing from. There's a lot of good sight lines from this. Unfortunately, not a lot of teams around them, but depending on how rotations could come into play, they can mess around with what's going on around that farm location to the south and take care of anybody that might be pushing around shelter to the north of them. Meanwhile, you just have a couple of little buildings that you can play around there, so you can still have some defense if people do push up right on top of it. There aren't a lot of angles onto that part of the road, and now we're jumping over to 4 a.m. once again.
They are on the opposite side of Entis Force. They still have one member over in the school going with a, looks like a 2-1, 3-1 potentially. I can't see the other member. Oh, it's a 2-2. They've got another member in the apartments as well when I look over at the mini-map. So looks like they want to spread out, control a lot of the center part of the circle.
Everybody always asks, Matt, why do you hate the players so much, and why do you want these like crazy circles coming in?
Who asked you these questions?
It's because the fact that, like, I love watching PUBG, but whenever you get these centralized circles, everybody knows how to play the math on it. Everybody's just hoping it's going to pop up in the center. Does go a little bit towards the north, so everybody back down towards the south is going to have to figure out how to handle the rotation. But this is what you want to see. You want to see people have to adapt to a situation. That's what PUBG is all about. And when you end up with centralized circles, it's just kind of comfortable. It's a lot of hot shots back and forth, trying to gather information so you can figure out how you can make that next rotation.
All right, Forever is watching WClick make their way into these shacks on the bottom side of the hill to the south of school. We'll see if he wants to pull the trigger on any of this or if he's going to wait for the rest of 4 a.m. to group up before they start putting some shots in there. You can see you can hear a few bullets clinking against some grass in the cars there, so looks like 4 a.m. going to take that radio tower hill up there.
Depending on how Wayless tries to play this, if he pushes this a little bit more aggressive, he might be able to see Psycho moving into the building, but it's just going to be one of those near misses as nobody's going to get sightline back towards each other. Wayless still trying to hold control of this high ground, overlooking the Badlands back over towards Sunken City location. So with this, Milk is still just praying. Nobody opts into going into these yellows. AHQ's had a rough start.
They're pretty popular compounds from time to time, but with the way this circle has shifted, I wouldn't expect anybody really to want to necessarily go into them. I would expect the Rumblers to just kind of bypass these at this point. Rumblers are up on the hill getting some information right now, just making sure their rotations are going to be clear as they head eastward.
So 4 Angry Men haven't had to move too much yet. They like to drop around this location, just getting better sight lines, separating out just a bit, trying to control the flatlands and the hills next to them. So meanwhile, they can take these shots like this and force and contain. That's what you want to do at this stage. You want to take a couple of shots to make everybody afraid to move. Because if you gather more information, you can lock them down, and then whenever they do have to move later, capitalize off of it and get those kill points.
And you'll see these teams make these really aggressive, wide splits if they're confident in their shots, because if you can start hitting people in vehicles as they're moving, oh, Senya, are you going to do it? Are you going to do it? Is he going to stop and get the shot?
He's just waiting for it. Seeing if anybody spots him out. I don't think that Ribbo was seeing. How's Ribbo not seen him in this position? I mean, he is right next to the rock, but looks like he's very caught up in what's going on, because remember that 4 Angry Men have been taking the shots at him.
Ribbo just didn't even look that way.
Zenya's just like, okay, well, let's just see if somebody else kills him at this point, feeding a little bit of information. He only has vision on one, so that's probably why he didn't take the shot. He has to assume that there might be other angles that he could have retaliation come back to him on. So instead, playing the patience game right now.
So some big rotations coming through outside of the map right now. FaZe has made, and Infantry have made a very long rotation all the way around the lake. Oh, Senya finally going to pull the trigger and get Sills in here.
I mean, that one was too out in the open. For as much trigger discipline as you want to try to bring in, at some point you got to be like, no, okay, I just got to take that point away.
Stolen.
WClick has to be cautious, and yep, Forever manages to pick that one up off of it. So everybody on Navi a little bit angry off of that one, especially after how long he was scouting it out. To finally get the down onto it and then somebody to steal away that kill, that just hurts the solo a little.
That is one of the most frustrating things when you make a really nice calculated shot, you buy your time, you get it down, and then someone else is just there. They're like, oh, gunshots? Oh, hey, look, free kill. Thanks, buddy. Here's that FaZe rotation I was talking about. They went way around the northern side of Yasnaya. Now, they might bump into Entis Ace, who has set up kind of dead center in front of them there. T1 as well has come over and is blocking the Yasnaya bridge, which is going to force Infantry back. This is a really smart rotation by FaZe. They know that coming in through the southeastern part of the circle is going to be chaos. Coming up through the north, there's going to be a lot less teams in their way.
Wide, long rotations very early in the game. It's one of the things that FaZe tends to like to do at this stage. Kind of be patient, let it situate out. Looks like Razak is going to be our centralized location. So all those guys playing those hills now finding themselves in a little bit of trouble. 4 a.m. still has the capability to gatekeep. So we're going to have to see how people rotate around. The river cutting right through this circle is going to make rotations so messy.
This is an absolutely brutal circle for these teams. One way or another, you're rolling the dice to try to pick the right side of the river. You can see WClick making a mad dash across, trying to get across the firing lines of 4 Angry Men, as well as Entis Force, but Nerf is going to back Sungjong off there. They take some damage. Ribo took a bit himself, but he's able to get up on the backside. His car's afire. Oh, careful!
Oh, that would have been so bad. So do manage to get this little bit of a dip, but they have to be very cautious of that hill back behind them. Got to give them, they decided to send it. Here comes comes out for him, but Force looks like they know, okay, exactly where they're going to position at. Kale's trying to get a little bit of oversight in this. A lot of teams opting to play back down towards those Badlands locations, use those hills. Meanwhile, other teams just full on gunning it through. You can see Ghost is trying to cut their way right over this building complex. Fairly strong. It's got the walls around the outside of it, but no real teams around this position except for Afrika off towards the east.
Love this rotation by Ghost. It gives them solid control over the eastern part of Razak, as well as a little bit of control over the bridge to the north of Razak. So I really like this move by them. Very safe rotation, came in there, no problem. But Na'Vi might be in trouble. DJ Boy's got the AK. Oh, and you're stopped at. Oh, Doozy is going to go down.
Senya gets retaliation shots back over for it, gets the down and the flush for this, so probably going to have to run back over there and pick up his friend. Nope, actually, Pokemon is just going to go ahead and do that for him, but they're going to have to continue their rotation as they are still not yet in the safe zone and has to be very cautious. The other members of VC are kind of set up along this path. They might have sightlines depending on how they play this, and you can see that it was Bestalash that was kind of playing up towards that hillside. They did see him for just a second.
It's the danger of this 1-3 split that we see, especially in Asia, a lot. You kind of feast or famine off of it. If your leader or your shot caller or your single man gets caught out, yeah, they might be able to pick up a kill. But then all of a sudden, you're in a bad position. You're outside of the circle. Na'Vi knows kind of where you are, and they're allowed to rotate around you.
So a lot of teams migrating up towards the north right now. It looks like Na'Vi is going to follow in their footsteps. Infantry is kind of posted up in front of them as well. Taking the shots back over towards Senya. That's going to be a down from the side of it. It's going to be a Freak of Freaks that actually buys a little bit more space for Senya to decide to stop, figure out what's going on, and get a control of a little bitty dip, I think, right on the edge of the zone.
Basically, from where Infantry and Na'Vi are up to a Freak of Freaks Fatal, there is quite a bit of open space. You can see Navi's going to make a go for it anyway. Oh, boy.
That rock came out of nowhere. Everybody's stacking up. This is bad. They do manage to get away with it as everybody's having to reload. Shadow just goes, nah, bro. This is our location, but the shots are coming in from the side of it. A lot of damage back over towards the Freak, so they're just going to step back away on this, and Na'Vi might have a push that they can potentially make off of it, and Lambu has to run upstairs. He just looks back down for a ghost for spray onto one of them. Does manage to get it. Trying to look back for the flush onto it, but knows it's risky. Meanwhile, you can see Style playing around the side of this, trying to see if they can get a flank, provide some form of support. Aduzi knows he's in a lot of trouble right now. The numbers favor everybody from the Freaks looking off on this. It's going to be Aduzi just trying to hold the angle on it, but it's so many pushes that are coming through. Gets the spray on one of them, but it's going to be sneaking up back behind it, and the Freaks do manage to take him down.
The Freaks with some solid defense. Now will Infantry try to pounce on this situation? Actually, Infantry is moving off. You can see them on the far right-hand side of the map. They aren't interested in this. Red Cadet now battling out their LAT AM partners. 2 down here for W-Click. It looks like the Cadets have the advantage, and they're going to take it.
That one hurt. They just crashed in the side of that, and that was instant destruction over towards W-Click. Rumblers playing down around the side of this, but you can see FaZe Clan has their sights back over towards Infantry. They do get one of them. That's going to force Infantry to make a push off in a different angle for this. So FaZe coming out big with that little bit of a hold right there, managing to hold back Infantry with that down. Now it's everybody playing along the bridges, making a push along this. We might see VC make a push along a similar line, and FaZe Clan is just set up and waiting.
Circle has gone north, and FaZe played the gamble very, very well here. They have a lot of room to work with up on the northeastern part. A lot of other teams now making their transition. Entis Force could run right into their sister team, Entis Ace. Here come the Rumblers, way out on the edge. They love to play the edge of the circle. They are masters of making these positions work.
A little bit of a skirmish going on between Genesis and Gen G. Meanwhile, you can see Domu realizing, okay, there's a lot of people that are pushing back over here. I believe he heard the cars just a second ago. So just going to go ahead and play back behind that. He does have the giant UAZ giving away his position back behind him, so has to be very careful about that one.
Yeah, absolutely. People are going to be pretty aware of where Domu is. And Longskirt coming up here.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's like, why is there just a random UAZ next to this rock? Surely there's nothing going awry in this location. Shots come through, and he actually gets dropped off of it. That's going to be a nice dome coming up from Domu, but the retaliation comes on the other side of it. But here comes Fatal as well, pushing on this. Shots come through, trying to spin it out, trying to hold it together. VC holding a nice little bridge troll position.
Yeah, Tide not interested in trying to fight that one out just yet. Style is able to get over the bridge, taking only a little bit of damage. Lambu as well up here for a Freak of Freaks Fatal. He's going to go up on the rocks. Tide, meanwhile, has opted to play the troll position underneath the bridge. Let's see if he can make anyone pay the tax.
Pushing back over to where we saw Ghost Gaming stop at. They're going to try to play that low area, that little bit of a lip to deny vision onto Ghost. That helps out the rotation by quite a bit, but there's a lot of people on the other side of this bridge they have to be very cautious about. Shots down starting to come in from the side of it, but they're just going to go ahead and play this dip by a little bit more space. But that means that they're losing out on a lot of information and could find themselves in a very bad spot as Tide pushes back down towards Style.
Style gets caught knowing where Tide was, but Tide had already moved out of there. So now NN, the sole surviving member of Fatal, moving through, going to try to find some kind of points. He's rolling up on the backside of Ghost right now in the southern eastern part of the circle. So curious to see what we're going to see from NN. AFF does a good job of snaking out some points for themselves. We saw it in a previous game, and curious to see if they can make it work again.
Rumblers laying down right next to Gen G. Depending on how Gen G rotates, have to be very cautious on this. Micro5 finding himself in a very close position to them. Shots starting to go back and forth. Looks like it's going to be the long-distance Rumblers on the side of this. It's going to be Cherry Poppins taking the shots onto this and force Gen G back and away from it. Looks like they might hop into their vehicles, but starting to get a little messy as we still have the river in play just to the north of Razak. So a lot of people are going to have to continue their rotation. A lot of these edge teams are going to have to find a way to push through these very fortified spots now.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really challenging for some of these teams that are still on the south, Genesis and Ghost, to potentially get across that river. Usually it's a tough proposition. Now the grenades are coming out onto Gen G. Smokes are down as well.
Waldo's got the spray. He's got the angle, trying to get more damage back over towards the car. Trying to line this back up. As you can see, Gen G's trying to play both smokes now. Grenades are starting to come through, but Rumblers are just pushing in front of them. Gonna end up walking right up next to Loki. So you can hear now, everybody's just listening for footsteps, trying to localize where the push is coming from, but it's gonna be a third party coming up from Ace, just spraying into the smokes. Gonna make it a little bit more dangerous for everybody on this part of the circle.
On the backside of this, VC Gaming was eliminated. Circle has moved forward. Loki gonna run right alongside. See if he can catch a Rumbler. He's gonna get Waldo. He's gonna get the flush as well. So an important point here for Gen G and Loki, but this is not the start to the day that they have wanted. Erangel has not gone their way.
So now everybody's just running right in front of the blue. There's a lot of utility that's already been used at this stage. You can see it's going to be H-Win looking back down towards Ghost Gaming. He's got himself a nice little sniper tower that he can play around, but realizing it might be a little bit too hot. Going to go ahead and throw down the smokes, try to get away from it, and good shots coming up from Shrimzy. He's going to get down onto him.
Shrimzy with an excellent spray, catching H-Win in movement. T1 might have to play blockade against FaZe up on the northeastern part of the circle. Uba's gonna find loss from the remnants of the battle between Gen G and the Rumblers.
FaZe playing along the edge on the hunt for kills right now. Very separated and has a lot of control over this part of the circle, just trying to force everybody to hide from them right now. Uba is just going after anything that he sees moving as well as Mexico.
This is impressive stuff from FaZe, fighting on two different fronts right now and kind of making it work. Now Fuzzface does get knocked by Laka. Here comes the aggression from T1, trying to lock this down. Mexi is knocked as well. It is just Uba left. Eder gets some decent damage. Uba is backing down. Oh, he's gonna get caught by Cherry Poppin.
It's gonna be a shot in the back. Now it's gonna be Rumblers continuing on the same path. You can see T1 still playing up along that hillside. Rumblers looking at that car thinking, okay, maybe we go for that. And look at that shot off on the side angle. Gets an easy drop onto him. So now Microfry's got to figure out what is he going to do. Running along the side of it, T1 takes the shots back down towards him, and Rumblers go out and tip.
Really nice stuff there. A little bit of help from Rang with the boomstick. He catches Cherry Poppin there. Now we're back over NA versus NA. I know you guys say you see this all the time, but here we go. Profi's going to get knocked by Shrimzy. 2 more members left for Genesis, 3 up for Ghost.
He's playing this position, trying to get a little bit more information on the angle. K-Mine's got the high side on this, just looking back down, trying to figure out how Ghost is going to make their push up. Circle does go back over to the north, so this fight is not inside the safe zone. It's going to need to be resolved very, very quickly, depending on how the push points come through. Keep in mind, 4AM is still holding down that eastern part of the circle as well as the bridge, so they have a lot of control in this position. So we're going to have to keep an eye on how people push into that location, but the push is still coming up from Ghost. They know they need to make their way through this, and Genesis is just bunkering down for it. Nerf with a really sneaky angle, depending on how Ghost pushes into this. It could be hazardous. Not going to be able to see it. Nerf goes for the reposition, and that's going to be a sneaky push in coming from Ghost. Nerf is just listening for this. He's actually going to walk right by them.
Nerf plays a little rope-a-dope with these guys. He's outside the building. Look at this. Shrimzy and Vegas are totally lost. They're like, where did Nerf go? We know he's in here. Meanwhile, K-Mine's trying to provide some cover. Nerf tries to peek around the corner, doesn't get much with it. He's got to hold this down. 1 down, but they're going to find Nerf here. Vegas clutches it out. Now he is taken down. 4AM is getting in on the action.
Taking the shots on the side of it. They have the high ground looking back over towards this. Ghost got the moral victory in getting the down, but they also had one of their members go down inside of it, trying to figure out how they're going to handle K-Mine that's still holding down that position. K-Mine can't move from the spot either. So really, both of these teams know they have to go. The blue is coming in back behind them. K-Mine's just trying to find the angle. Lots of damage back over towards him. His feet are taking some damage as well. He does manage to make it back around behind this, but that was a lot of damage back down towards him.
K-Mine has been excellent so far this tournament, but the reinforcements from 4 AM. ZGG made a rotation into the middle of the circle to cover more of this angle, to try and get some more kills off of this. K-Mine does get taken down by Vegas. Ghost has a really tough slog ahead of them to get across that river.
So you took down Genesis, but where do you go next, Ghost? Because the fact that 4 Angry Men have you in their sights, just trying to figure out what they're wanting to do on this. You can see Ghost is like, all right, we need to get it down, but look at how many teams are looking back down towards this. We've got 4 Angry Men on one side of it. We've got Red Canids on the other. Ghost is just trapped out